Aloha.
Aloha.
This is Yogi Chander and Naviae Allora. We are live. I wish we were both from Hawaii, but only Naviae is. So na 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 na. How you doing, Naviae?
I'm wonderful. I have my favorite color flower in my hair, hibiscus today, and hot
Uh,
coffee and talking with my friends. So life is good.
that is excellent. I mean, hibiscus alone would do it for me, but I have my Earl Grey tea. Usually I have coffee going, but today it's tea, and you have coffee.
Ooh, I had a whole Earl Grey tea obsession because of Jean-Luc Picard.
Very good. Make it
I
so.
had such a schoolgirl crush on him. Oh my gosh.
No,
Yeah.
that's a good question. I've um I've pretty much given up pop culture at this point, but I used to be a huge geek and Star Wars and Star Trek. But for you, um, not even between Star Wars and Star Trek, but which Star Trek? Obviously Picard. So is it Next Generation? Is that your favorite?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
true. I know people it's like fighting words, but that's that's just what I connected with. It was on late night when I was a teen and alone in my room kind of thing. Like, yeah, it
Sure.
was.
Yeah, I understand. Well, it's been nice having you, Navier. Take care. Bye. It's the
Don't
classic
hate me.
series.
I have I have nothing against the original, but if I had to choose, I would choose Picard every day.
I totally understand, especially from the female point of view. I get it. But I'm totally the classic series, the original series. But I'm also an original Batman series guy more than the later Batmans. So like
Okay.
Adam West, Burt Ward.
Yeah. I grew up watching Batman in reruns as a kid, and that was
Me
fun.
too.
And my favorite part of the Batman television series was how like campy it was,
Yeah.
with the little like pow and you know I they just had the best costumes and it was so like low budget and awesome.
It was almost like Doctor Who-ish. It was way over the top, and they had
So good.
ridiculous little like puns and things all over the place.
I know.
You know?
It was
And they had
good.
cameos by really big name actors. Like Rocky's coach was actually the Penguin. Did you know that?
Burgess Meredith.
Yes.
Yeah, I
And
know.
I mean, so many
Yeah.
more people that are. It's just like amazing. Um,
Mhm.
and another campy kind of thing that I know you mentioned that on another show that you were into is Mighty Isis. I was totally into that.
I love that show. Oh my gosh, I wanted to just like be with her. I felt that connection. I was little. I was like 4 or 5 years old watching that.
Me
My
too.
I had this little teddy bear chair. That's how I know how little I was because I had a teddy bear chair that was right on the ground and it must have been about this big. And I can remember I had a red one and I also had a brown one. And I used to sit in my little teddy bear chair and watch it. So I could have
That's
been maybe
awesome. A teddy
preschool.
bear
Yeah.
chair. What could be cozier?
It was so cozy.
I'm going to trade for a teddy bear chair. That's awesome.
It was like felty. It was soft, but it was just this little, you know, square box of a chair, and the back of it had almost like a Yogi Bear looking kind of thing.
A
But
Yogi bear? What? That's not why I'm.
yeah, it
But
it looked it was a Yogi Bear. He was in prayer pose. No.
that'd be awesome. I had a
So
huge.
are you a yogi? He was in prayer. Oh, I just heard my repeat. That was weird.
Yeah, sorry, I just clicked onto the YouTube channel so that I could see the chat there and see what had to be. And I have to give Keats a wrench. I'm not sure how to do that. Let's see here.
What's up, Keats?
That's funny. Um, I should put him in timeout. You're in timeout, Keats. No.
Oh, it's 11:11 here. I
It's
request
11.
the most
Hey,
benevolent outcome for this situation. Thank you.
our number is synchronistic for you.
Mm. 11/11. I try and do this little. I request the most benevolent outcome for this situation. Thank you. Every time I see 11/11, or especially at the times of 11/11. Yeah, it's like a little way of releasing whatever's on my mind to the benevolence of the universe and trusting that it's all gonna work out the way it needs to.
I hope that it does indeed. Um, I take faith in stuff like that too. I mean, those synchronicities, I see them all over the place in so many different ways, and I take note. For me, it's not numbers as much. I mean, I do notice numbers, and they're part of my rhythm and stuff. But for me, it's other things. But
Other signs and symbols.
yeah, other synchronicities in life and signs and symbols. And I've heard you talk a little bit about that too. And I was wondering how. So I had asked a question, and you had said that you some of the places you visited were intentional, and you were vagabonding around a little bit, and then some of the places are just synchronistic. So the synchronistic ones, what can you think about one of those?
Yeah, let's see. I have a really good example of this one. The first one, I have a few, but the first one that comes to mind and kind of maybe the most dramatic of them is actually about a yoga center. So, I always think, like, where do I back up to? Like, what signpost is the most relevant where I can begin the story from?
I know that's always hard with synchronicity.
Right?
Where do they start? Which reminds me, before you go too quick, you said something about deja vus, and I totally am on board with you about having that moment where it all comes full circle, and you're just like, it just everything is just weird for a bit. So that kind of goes with what we're talking about now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, I will go back to this one spot. So I had come here to Hawaii and decided to leave and do these festivals with friends. And I drove across country with one of my best friends at the time, still a soul brother. And so I had a backpack and I was in his van. We're driving across country and we're vending and doing different things at these festivals, seeing friends. And we end up in California and we go to this festival, drum and dance all night, alchemical fire circle. And it was so in the Santa Cruz Mountains, so great. And
were you working at djembe or were you just dancing or?
I don't really play anything other than I like to fool around on the drums a little bit, and I just like blow into my harmonica for fun. And I've tried guitar so many times, but I wouldn't say I'm a musician at all. I have
right there with you.
Yeah, I love to dance. I was put into dancing school when I was 3 because I was like painfully shy, and it was a competitive dance school. So I was involved with a competitive dance school since I was 3 till about 13.
Wow.
So yeah, and
like ballet,
just like tap jazz ballet and like group, yeah, that kind of thing. So
known a lot of dancers, done some dancing.
Yeah, and I've done a little African dancing and a little bit of belly dancing and just other movement throughout my life. But I wouldn't say like I'm a musician at all. So I was there dancing and just transforming because it's that kind of spiritual container. And at the end of this event, my friend and I had loose plans to keep traveling together, and he started talking about these different places he wanted to go. He wanted to go to Vegas. He wanted to go to Southern California. And I'm like, I don't want to do any of that. I want to go north. I wanted to go to these other, earth dance and other things that were happening up towards Oregon.
Was that festival season and stuff was going on all around there?
Yeah, it was that time. It was like August, so height of festy time, and so but I'm realizing that I'm in California with no car, and my friend and I are our paths are diverging. That's what it feels like, and I feel a little desperate because I want to be in my integrity and do what I feel spirit is calling me to do, but I don't really know how that's going to happen because I thought we were doing this in his band, and now I don't know. So I'm in
Whoa,
this
God.
I'm in this impasse. So I actually met up with um, a man that I had who was an African drummer, went and lived in Africa and learned how to make and play djembe.
Ooh,
And
yeah.
I've run into him in Santa Cruz, and we have a long a long day that turns into a long night talking together, and I'm lamenting over this, and he looked at me and he said, why would you be in someone else's flow? He goes, don't do it. He goes, just decide, don't do it. And I'm like, you're so right. Why am I even considering it? This isn't what I want to do. End of story. Spirit, make it so. you know so
Sip your
um
Earl Grey.
yeah. And it's like I don't have to know all the details, but I have to know what my will is, what my clarity is. So my friend and
Take that.
I approached him and said, I don't think I want to do any of what you're talking about. I have this other feelings. And he said, okay. He said, well, I'm not going to kick you out of the van. He said, but I'm going to leave soon, so you need to figure this out. And he had a date, so he dropped me off at this reggae show, and he said, I'll connect in here later, and that was that. So I was alone at this reggae show, and this little girl that was with her family, must have been about 5 or 6 years old, comes like fluttering up to me, and she has something in her hand. So I put my hand out like this, and she put a petal in each of my hands, and
Oh,
like kind of giggled and walked away. And it was
wow.
like I felt like it was these two choices. Be in your truth and your integrity, or stay in your friend's van and not do what your soul is telling you to do. Here's your options. And I
Hmm.
just was like, okay, I need to get clear, and this is what I'm calling in. And I closed my eyes and put my hands like this and prayed. I I just said, I need, or I want, and I said all these places that I wanted to visit, these festivals. I wanted to learn about biodiesel. I wanted to live in an off-grid community. And a little aside, I wanted to shit in a trench because that's what I had been doing in Hawaii, and I didn't like flushing,
You
going
wanted to
in
sit in a trench, you said?
shit in a trench
Oh, yeah.
because
Okay. Gotcha.
I was I was resenting going to the bathroom in water. I had been doing that for a year on the Big Island, going into like an outhouse situation, and I thought, why am I going in water? Water is sacred, and like it's not a commodity, and I don't know. So that was part of my prayer.
Wow.
And I also wanted to learn about biodiesel and alternate fuels.
Uh-huh.
And I kept hearing about this rainbow gathering in Costa Rica. And I had been to really small rainbow gatherings, but I had never been to a big one. And I thought, maybe that'd be fun to like caravan down to Central America.
Sure.
And
Never made it to
so,
one. Always wanted to.
yeah, I don't know about it now, but back in the day, it was fun, an
Yeah.
experience. And so that was my prayer. And I dropped the pedals, and they kind of landed one here, one there, and the music starting. So I just did this like figure eight infinity loop and just had my eyes closed most of the time. I was still in that like sacred drum and dance trance space, so I could just shift in there real easy.
Yeah.
Um, so
Kind of.
I just did this prayer for the whole song, and really felt a lot of light coming through me, and a lot of like, I don't need to control this, but this is my will, and lining up with the forces that would make this happen, kind of thing. And I
Yes.
opened my eyes after the music stopped, and there was this man, and he was just like, his eyes sparkled and beaming like all this love at me. And he comes wandering over, and he said, what were you doing? And I said, I was praying. And he said, what were you praying for? And I said, well, I need to get to these festivals and I want to learn about biodiesel and I want to live in a community and I want to shit in a trench and I want to go to the Costa Rica Rainbow Gathering and da da da, right? And he looked at me, he goes, well, I live in a community, and there's a trench there you can shit in if you want. Uh, he goes, he goes, I teach how to make biodiesel and make and sell biodiesel. And my partner just bought a bus that we're converting to biodiesel. And the plan is to take it to Costa Rica to the Rainbow Gathering. And do you want to
No.
meet us next weekend up at the festival? Because you can just jump on the bus and that's what we're doing.
Wow.
That
Wow.
was yeah.
That is every single checkbox, you know? Holy mackerel.
Literally. And my friend came to pick me up after his date and after the show. And I'm like in this like group hug, like laughing with these strangers. And he's looking at me like, and I said, these are the people that I'm going to go live with and shit in the trench at their community and learn biodiesel and go to La 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 festivals and then go to Costa Rica and their biodiesel bus. And he was like, okay, you manifested that. And I said, yep, just like that.
Wow, to the letter. Was that the first
Yeah.
time you actually manifested something so tangibly and so specifically?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
No. But that's such a fun example of it because the little girl with the, I felt like she gave me these little fairy seeds. And yeah, I have a lot of stories like that, but that's a really good one.
Yeah, that whole story is beautiful. Wow. And it really, I'm sure, was a life-changing event to do that.
It was. And I met up with them a week later and was on this journey with this whole group of people. And I'm still friends with most of them. I've lost touch with some, but some of them, one I ended up going to herb school with, and another one I lived with a few different times. So yeah, pretty cool.
Wow. That is cool that you can keep in touch with people like that. That's go ahead.
I just feel like because all I had was what I could carry. I didn't have like a lot of anchor in the mundane or 3D system or world, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So I feel like being untethered like that, you really experience the synchronistic because you're so
You have,
open and free
yeah.
and
Yeah,
surrendered.
surrender, yes. For you, was that an intentional choice or did circumstance bring that to you?
No, it was super duper intentional. And it was a process. I didn't start out thinking I'm going to give away all my possessions and wander around initially. And so I was living in Chicago in Uptown and have that in common with the amazing, beautiful Nish, which I love.
I remember hearing that on visit with her.
Yeah,
It's
she's so
Halloween.
great.
Summer.
Yeah. Um,
That's
so
what
I
I
was,
first you, by the way.
ah, beautiful connections.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Jaima. So,
Yes.
living in Chicago, I had just separated from a man that I was married to, and it was um, really a huge experience to empower myself to leave this relationship because um, I don't know, like the sun kind of rose and set on him for about 5 years for me, and then it was just like the veil was ripped off, and I saw what he really was about, and
Oh,
what I needed to do in order to like reclaim myself. So, um, moved in with a friend and kind of like detox for a year, and then at the end of this year, um, that same friend that I ended up meeting up with a year later in California and all that, we said let's hit the road. We do we're healers or massage and energy work and we're both into shamanic work and things. And
I'm down with
I'm
that.
sure,
Beautiful.
yeah, I'm not sure if he was doing readings at the time. I know he's very sensitive, but I sure was. So we thought, let's just get a booth together, share it, and hit these festivals. That's what we were doing. And I
Nice.
put all of my stuff in storage at a mutual friend's house. I mean, all my stuff, furniture, statuary, jewelry, clothes, pots, pans, everything.
Wow.
And yeah,
That's a lot
and
of
just
cash.
it was everything. And all my books and memories. Oh, and I have full circle with this too. All like picture boxes and memories and that sort of thing too. Everything.
Wow.
And I just pulled up stakes and put it all in my little green beetle I had. And
Oh, you had a bug? Cool.
I
What
did. I
year?
had a 2000 new beetle. It was so fun.
Gnarly. Sweet.
Yeah, it was that cyber green color. It was really fun. So,
Cool.
and
Love it.
surprisingly, a large amount of things fits in that little tiny car. I had a whole camp and a kitchen and a booth and a cordial Casbah, and yeah, I had a lot of stuff in the fit and him. So, any case, so we go to these festivals and um, primarily New York and then West Coast, and then
Wow.
met that
That
djembe
is
drummer
fun.
and his friend, traveled for a while, went to Burning Man and all these different festivals on the West Coast. And the Mind Astrology was calling me, and I ended up going to Hawaii.
What do you mean it was calling you? Were you already familiar with it, or?
I didn't really know that much about it. This was like 2001 or two, and people kept talking to me about it, especially on the West Coast. And I would just be like, I don't know anything about this. Like, I've been in astrology all my life, but I didn't know anything about this dream spell, Mayan stuff. And
Sounds
yeah,
great.
yeah, that's a whole other synchronistic story. But um, when I got to Hawaii, I was here for a few months, and that same friend, his name is Poppy, um, emailed me, and he said, "Dude, your stuff's at Gail's. Like, are you ever coming back for it? It's been here since April, and it's now like January." And I had this whole process in my head, and it was like Spirit was saying, you know, you've lived without all this stuff for so long. Do you need this stuff? And
Mm.
maybe you could just give it all away and just let it all go, what that would feel like.
Mm.
And I just wrote, just give it away. Send. And he did. He said, I'll be happy to manage that for you. And
Was that
still,
hard?
it,
Was it a
it
moment?
wasn't in the moment, but the next year I went back to these festivals, and all of our friends that he had given our stuff to, my stuff to, had my stuff, and they were calling it like, the Naviae collection or whatever. So I'm like, I remember that velvet cloak. They're like,
Like I
and
look good in that cloak.
yeah, people had my shoes, and my statuary was all around the campground, and it was just like, oh yeah, I used to, okay. And he actually put out a little SOS for me, because I came back from Hawaii with just, again, a backpack, and he said,
Wow.
she's a non-materialist, and all she has is a tent, and you guys have all her stuff, so bring it so she can camp in style, and have, air mattress and whatever other. I had a lot of posh stuff, but yeah, so
You were
that's
good
kind of
without
how
it.
it happened.
You were good without all that stuff too, though.
Yeah. I mean, I
Wow.
lived 7 years without having a official home or belongings, just what I could
7 years?
carry.
Wow.
7 years, yeah. And so when I was festivaling, I had my beetle and, stuff for the camp and everything, like all my favorite clothes and that sort of stuff. And then when I got the tap to go to Hawaii, I had to sell my car. So that got rid of my car. And then it was even downsized even more to what I could carry, because I had more stuff in my car. It's like, now you don't even have that. So, um, and then I had let my hair dreadlock, and my hair was really long. It was like to the middle of my back, and I just let it dreadlock up. And intentionally, it was clean and nice and everything. But it was another release of ego identity and control.
Yes. I hear you.
And then when I came back, I ended up going to this yoga center, and I shaved my head. So it was like, who am I without a home, a partner, a job, a car, your hair? It was just like whittling just to really understand my like little core self. And also I realized after a lot of processing that it was this, I was proving to myself that I was enough, that I could handle it on my own, that I could have nothing and still be happy and me, and yeah, and to trust spirit again and again. I got in some sketchy situations doing that.
Yeah, I that's something I really admire about some of your stories is your willingness to jump into the fray, to kind of go into the waves or whatever and surf it out, even though it looks like it could be pretty hairy. In other words, you really seem to trust spirit, and I love that. And you kind of dive into circumstances that are risky, and yes. So I had a question in mind, but it's gone now. So please go ahead and continue if you like.
Yeah. So how I got to the yoga center.
Oh, yes. I had a question about that.
So,
sorry.
The story about the dance studio and the manifesting the community was super amazing, right? But after a few months of living with these folks and community life and things, I can't help but see when people have I don't want to say darkness, because that's not the right word.
Heaviness, maybe?
Something's off with someone. There's something off. Like it starts to almost reveal itself to me, and I start to see maybe there's like an entity or something off with someone. So I'm seeing this in one of the people, and it seems like everyone else is just bamboozled by it, and I'm just like, does no one see that this is something, but they know I know.
Yeah, they're like, she knows, right?
Yeah. So now I'm kind of being targeted, and I could feel the energetic target coming at me. And I had mentioned in somewhere that I don't like jazz music, and it gives me panic attacks. Not so much now, but really a lot back in the day. And everyone in this community knew I didn't like jazz music at all, and try not to play it if I was around, if possible. And like everyone had their little things, like, don't do this, don't do that, wait till this time to whatever, when we're trying to like work within everyone's comfort level, a lot of that dancing around in community, right? And so I had a migraine, I didn't feel well, which sometimes happens, right? Like last time we tried to get together, and it's just
I look at those two. That's a drag.
It's just incapacitating. All you could do is lay there and just sort of like journey it out.
Yep.
And
exactly.
So one of the fellows came home and found me laying in the dark in one of the rooms, and he was like, "Oh, wow, are you okay? Like, okay, well," he's like, "We'll keep it really shanty. I'm gonna bring you some ice for your head." And so I hear him go in the kitchen with someone else, the entity person, is like clanging around making latte or something, and he's like, "Well, keep it shanty. She has a migraine. Like, we're gonna." So he's telling her, like, keep it chill. Well, I feel this person like, and I'm like, oh no, they're coming for me. They put jazz music on blast.
Oh.
And they're musicians, so they're playing along with it. I'm like, oh no, like all my force fields are down because of the migraine, and then now it's like they're psychically attacking me and this jazz, and I'm like, oh man, right?
That's awful.
So And I had gone to my altar to light a candle for like protection and to tune in because I couldn't lay there anymore. Now this music is blast because that fellow went out, and now it's just me and this entity person with the jazz.
Oh,
So I go to my altar, and I had gotten this little it was like a magazine in Mount Shasta with ascended masters and saints and things in it, and I cut it out one of the images of Ananda Mahima. I love her, and I glued it to a piece of cardboard and like stuck it on my altar. Total like makeshift, ramshackle thing with like a little candle. So that's my
cool.
altar on the edge of my little, milk crate dresser that I'm living in, right?
Yes, that's
So,
from I love it.
right. So
Folk
I,
style.
yeah. So I light the candle and I'm like, oh, I just really, and I'm tuning in and I look at the image of her and it's animated. She's alive in this image now. I'm like hallucinating with this image of Ananda Mahima.
Interesting.
And
Fascinating.
and it's like
Wow.
I'm talking to her, she's talking to me, she's moving, she's like all this and everything.
Yeah.
And she says to me, she goes, "Oh, I love this." She goes, "Oh, dear one, you know what you must do.
Yes.
You know what you must do." And I'm like, "Oh, I need to leave and I need to go to Santa Cruz. I need to go back to Santa Cruz." And she's like, "Yes." And it was like, now it's just a piece of cardboard again. And I'm like, Santa Cruz, I still don't have a car. How am I going to get to Santa Cruz? Right. So I'm like, okay, universe, like I need to get to Santa Cruz. That's where I need to go. And I'm like, wait, I know people in Santa Cruz. Who do I know in Santa Cruz? And I'm thinking about um, my friend Echo and this other woman that I had met there. So I'm calling these people like, hey, I might be coming to Santa Cruz, And this woman says, I've been feeling you that you were going to come. I had this guest room. You're welcome to come anytime. I tell you, whenever I see you, stay. And I'm like,
Beautiful.
well, if that's a sincere offer, I think I'm going to find a way to get there. And she's like, it's sincere. Please, be a blessing, whatever. So I'm like, okay, I have a place to stay. I just need to get a ride there. Well, my friend Josh's son comes into the room and he says, hey, I just got a gig to do outdoor education in the Santa Cruz Mountains. I'm cruising through Santa Cruz today. He says, did you
Wow.
want to go to Santa Cruz with me? Yeah. And I said,
You're
yes,
one
I
to
do.
go.
So I grabbed my stuff and went right to Santa Cruz. But now I'm in this woman's house. Now I'm in this friend of a friend's guest room. What am I doing here? So spirit would take me to one place and then I'm like, now why am I here? You know?
Yeah.
And my friend Echo called me and she said, hey, we're gonna have a little goddess gathering. Some other wonderful sisters, you should come tonight, I'll come get you. So we walked to this, it was all like in the neighborhoods, so we go to this goddess gathering and then I tell Echo, like, I'm in this weird place, I don't know what I'm doing, like spirit sent me here, but now what? And she said, well, you don't have to know right now. She said, let's go get tea tomorrow, we'll go for a walk and we'll just call it in. So we did, and we're sitting at the 418 dance studio having tea, and she said, Naviae, what do you want? And I said, well, I still want to live in community, but I want it to be a spiritual community, not
Mm,
just like random hippie friends. I want it to be like, I want to learn something and I want it to be more structured and I want to be in nature. Um, and, whatever. So I said all these things. And she said, okay. She said, make it so kind of thing. Well, then this woman comes in. Oh, Echo, hey. And she sits down and she said, oh, where are you coming from? And the girl says, oh, I'm living at Mount Madonna, and it's a yoga center up in the redwoods overlooking Monterey Bay. And I'm just like, what
wow.
is this place that you talk of? And she says, oh, I'm just here in town doing my laundry, but I'm going back. Do you want to come with me? You can like do a personal retreat and do some work trade, and it's a few dollars a month, a few dollars a day. And
Oh,
I
wow.
said, I
Wow.
would like to go there with you. So up I went.
What kind
And
of yoga?
it was classical Ashtanga yoga with Baba Haridas was the guru. He recently passed away within a year or two. But he was a silent renunciate monk. He was from Hardwar in the like low-lying Himalayan mountain range in India. And when he was 8, he said to his mother, and I always want to cry when I say, he says, "Mother, can you open the sky for me?"
Ah.
And she said, "No, my son, I cannot." And he said, "I must leave then." And she said, "I know." And he went up into the mountains by himself and found himself a guru. Neem Karoli Baba was his teacher. And Neem Karoli Baba was my teacher's teacher and also Bhagavan Das's teacher, who was Ram Das's teacher. So it's all linked.
Yeah.
Ram Das and Bhagavan Das and my Das and everyone's Das.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So living in the caves or whatever up with Neem Karoli Baba, Baba Haridas said to him, I'm so angry, how can I get rid of my anger? And Neem Karoli Baba was like always in his blanket, right? He just lived in a blanket up in the caves, and he just said, stop talking. And Baba Haridas said, I will be silent. And that was the last thing he ever said. And he was writing on a little chalkboard. Yeah. Super magical. So that's where I ended up, at the feet of the Baba.
Like silent retreats of any kind for even a day are so hard to do. He just gave it up forever.
Along with, sexy time and a whole bunch of other things.
Wow. Yeah. Right. I have a lot of monastic qualities, but I just couldn't go full monk like that. There's I'm a lay monk-ish kind of guy.
I loved that lifestyle. I could have lived there forever. I wanted to live there forever.
Yeah.
I never wanted to come back.
I'm so jealous that you did.
Yeah.
I've really longed to do that, very much so, but it wasn't quite for me. There was a time just for a year when I was alone without everything too, and that was a process for me. But and it culminated with some Kundalini yoga, but I never made it to a retreat or anything. That just sounds ideal. And so, where did things take you next? Why did you leave there?
So I was just there for a few days doing this personal retreat, and people kept asking me if I was there for something called Yoga Service Community. They call it YSC. And I was like, I don't even know what you're talking. I'm just here to live in the Redwoods for a couple of days and like figure out what's next. I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, who is this guru? I don't know. I really just felt like I just wanted to just kind of be with the Redwoods for a minute. And people kept saying, are you here for this program? It's starting next week. And I said, no, I'm not here for that. And then they'd be like, are you sure? Because I think he's,
Yeah.
And
right up your alley.
Yeah. And this one woman had befriended me. She was like a manager of one of the conference buildings. And I was doing my work trade washing dishes. And she walked in and she said, You're in. And I was like, in what? And she said, no, you need to be here. And I said, but I don't even, she said, no. She said, you don't understand. She's like, I just went to the board meeting and they were trying to figure out who they were gonna, it was 20 slots, I guess. And one person dropped out, or 13 slots. And one person dropped out and they said, we have an opening. And she said, it needs to be this girl. I know exactly who, like, we have a long waiting list of people that have been vetted. And she's like, I don't care. She's here and she walks with spirit and she needs to be here. And that was that.
Wow.
So I didn't even know what I was getting myself into, but I was supposed to be there. And they had 2-month volunteer sessions that you could do and pay a little money and do a bunch of work trade, and you got all the yoga you could do. And
awesome.
studying the sutras and
Oh,
satsang and community living in a whole new way. And so I did all 3 of the possible sessions, 1, 2, and 3. And at the end of it, you have a choice of either leaving or like applying to be part of the community. And I was considering doing that. And one of the ladies moved into the cabin. I had like a 4-person cabin I was living with. I was alone at the time, but this woman came in and she was from Salt Spring Island, British Columbia. And she would wake up at 4 a.m. and do her sadhana, in the living room. And I'd wake up feeling this like energy buzz. And I knew it was her doing her meditation. It was so powerful.
cool.
And she said, have you thought about going to Salt Spring? And I said, no, tell me more. And she said, oh, you fit right in. It's run by a woman and it's on this beautiful property. And she said, I'm gonna call them and tell them that you should come. So I was like, yeah, I want to go to British Columbia. So I had friends in Seattle and I just kind of like cruised up and I went and volunteered and was like in charge of making their brunch, and they had yoga trainings so I could, go in the garden, like quiet like a little mouse and get all these beautiful edible flowers and make breakfast with other people. And then like I was in charge of decorating all the tables and all the meals, so it looked really like a fairy had come. And it was a lot of beautiful garden and produce from the land. And they had a big retreat where as many of their devotees that they could fit would come, and people would still get other accommodations, and the guru would come. And so I lived there for 3 or 4 months, I guess, until it started to get cold. And I also wanted to stay there. And I had a private session with Baba Haridas, and he said, the season is ending. And I said, I know. And he said, what are you going to do? Because he knew, I guess, because he was really psychic, that I was wanting to stay. And he looked at me and he went like that. And he wrote, you will always only be a guest here.
Huh.
And I wanted to cry. And he was like, he'd make this little tick like, yep. So
Wow.
I was angry. I was really angry. And not at him, just at circumstances.
Just
And
yeah.
I started like, walking around the property, just walking around, clearing my head. They had little woods and different paths. And on the way from my meeting with Baba Haridas, and I was like yelling at the universe, like, really, I finally found a place I really want to stay and be at, and I can't stay. But I did feel like I was being, energetically moved along.
Yeah.
And I said, well, if I'm supposed to leave here, then you need to show me where I need to go and make it good. And I started to get like super bitchy about it.
Yeah.
And like I need a sign kind of thing.
Yeah.
And on the way from my meeting with Baba Haridas to my woods walk, 2 or 3 people stopped me and said, hey, did I meet you in Kauai? And I said, no, I've never been there. And they're like, oh, you would love Kauai. Yeah. 2 or 3 people. And then just random. And then walked through the woods and did more praying. And I went back to my room. I was sharing with this woman, Alice, who's just a doll. And she said, hey, what are you doing? And I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I said, I wanted to stay and I think I'm getting moved along. And now I think I'm supposed to go to Kauai. And she went, Kauai? I just got an email from my brother's best friend who lives there, and he owns a health food store, and he wanted to know if I wanted to move to Kauai.
Wow.
And I said, really? And she said, yeah, I'll message him. She said, do you want to go? Because you could stay with him and his family.
Oh.
They have an extra car they offered to me. I'm sure you could use it. and you could get a job right away babysitting their kids and working at this health food store that is in Hanalei. So I don't know anything about Kauai. So I'm like, well, let me think about it. She's like, well, I'm going to email him and just put it out there. I said, okay. So I go out to, one of the little like garden areas, and there's this fellow Jonathan, and he said, hey, what are you doing? And I said, I think I'm going to Kauai. And he said, Kauai? Oh, I love it there. La la la. I was there last year. And I said, he said, where? I said, well, there's a health food store that I might have a job at in Hanalei. And he went, Hanalei? He said, that's the most beautiful place in the whole island. There's like waterfalls everywhere. It's the end of the road, North Shore. It's the beginning of the Kalalau Valley Trail. He's like, girl, you're not just going to Kauai, you're going to Hanalei.
Oh,
so that made
wow.
me even more excited about it. And I was like, okay, let's do it. So it was maybe 4 days later, I was in Hanalei.
Wow.
Super magical. And I loved Kauai. Kauai was amazing.
I've got to tell you, I stopped in this synchronistic little neighborhood lending library. They have a bunch of those around my area just the other day, and I picked up this book of hiking trails in Kauai.
Yeah.
So
the Kalalau Valley is legendary.
It is beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
So where you're at now?
Now I'm on Big Island.
Ah.
Different island. Kauai is one of the most northern ones, and Big Island is the most south.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, we have the volcano. Volcanoes. 5 of them.
Right. Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
That is just so prophetic though, and so amazing how those things unfolded for you.
Yeah, it was a magic time.
Wow. So I'm curious, as an energy healer, and someone who I'm guessing that's largely intuitive for you.
Doing right? Energy healing?
Yeah.
It's both. I've been formally trained in Reiki. I had a teacher in 95 in New England teach me like level 1, and then I had 2 different teachers in the Chicago area over like 3 or 4 years that did level 2 master and teacher.
Wow.
But yeah, it is. And I've been to massage school also, and
really,
and went to cranial sacral therapy training and theta healing, and I went to herbal medicine school. So I do have like legit formal training.
But you also have a gift though, like an inherent gift, right?
I am super intuitive.
Yes. Also. I mean, I know I've heard you speak that you have a family lineage, it's kind of in the blood and stuff, but also you yourself just kind of seem to have a magical, connection that lends to that healing. It's very gentle and healing.
Oh, thank you. That's nice to hear.
Yeah, it's true. I've been around a lot of healers. I went to acupuncture school for a bit, and I've been exposed to a lot of that stuff, and it's been part of my world. And so I can tell that that's just something you can't be trained into. It's something you have or not. And that's awesome the way you're stepping into it. I mean, you're doing so much with it. I love it. Is that incorporated? I was actually going to ask you a question about yoga, so I will, but after that, does the healing aspect play into your witch school that you're working on now? But before you answer that, I wondered if yoga informed your healing technique or anything in any way.
It's interesting because I feel like with massage and my time living with a yoga community, and even herbal medicine school, it was like an attempt to ground. I feel like I'm really star-tied. I'm really way more in the ethers than I am in my body and grounded. It's something I really have to work hard on. And last year was awesome, but this quarantine year, I feel like I've lost it a little bit. So it needs my constant focus of staying active and staying in my body, and the other
Yes.
stuff is, I don't have to think about it. It's just my natural rhythm, you know.
Okay, yeah.
So I feel like these more physical healing techniques have been to maybe create more of a balance for myself, to give
Hmm.
it a system or a format versus just like I just put my hands there and it happens, or I
Yeah.
just make the intention and it happens, or you know, I want to ground it in an earth tide way.
Yes. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
you. I feel you in that. For me, it was the martial arts, and but I was always, I've also experienced, some concussions, as you know, you've talked about too, and other things. And so, whatever, I've had OBEs and NDEs, several, and and my nature is that way too. And I was a terrible athlete as a kid, but I was kind of forced to do it anyway, growing up. But when I found the martial arts, I found the experience that grounded that for me, and it turned into more healing modalities and things. But um, that's that's awesome that journey connected you too with so many different modalities.
And it was something that was a conscious pursuit for a long time. And sometimes that was, like going to herbal medicine school was a dream that came to me when I lived in Kauai, and heard about the teachers and that it was a shamanic energy focused herb school, because something that was just super Western med wouldn't have worked for me. I, wa-
Yeah,
I, I wanted it to be, it was two medicine women, and they had a Sami and a Choctaw lineage. And, so
oh, that's so awesome.
yeah, they're badass. Blue Otter School. What's up? Oh my gosh. In the Mount Shasta area. Mm,
Awesome.
yeah,
That's the kind of herbology that I would love to check out. That's beautiful.
yeah, I
Nice.
can't recommend them enough. Um, they keep the class really small, and you have to move there and live there. At least that was the structure back in the day when I was there over 10 years ago now. But so people came from everywhere, so you had some people from Europe and all over the United States, and just like we all just moved to this little old gold mining town
Awesome.
and descended there and just made this little bubble of, it was awesome. A lot of field trips up into the mountains, into sacred highlands and alpine lakes, and so good.
Seeing
I
where
love
all those things come
California.
from, right? Getting the real nature and sense of them.
Oh yeah. And it was there that I really got to connect with my skunk. I have skunk as a totem.
Are you kidding me? I
You
saw a
do?
skunk the other, like on, I guess it was the morning of my birthday. Which was the day after I met you. Because
Happy birthday.
thank you. So your show was on the 28th. My birthday was the 29th. I woke up on the 29th, at 3 in the morning, went outside, and there was a big ass fluffy skunk right there in my back patio. Never seen a skunk in real life before.
I love them.
Wow.
They're,
There's a lot of energy with you. This is fascinating.
yeah. I'm so happy to hear that you had a little visitation. Um
Tell me.
they're so playful. So you know how you can have your this is back in the 90s. A friend of mine let me borrow one of her animal totem decks.
Like the
Um
medicine cards?
I think it was like called medicine cards, animal
I had
medicine
that.
cards.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
best I've ever had. Yeah.
I've never owned my own deck, but I've been gifted to play with them. And this was like I was on loan, and she said, you have to pull 9 cards and then never do it again. These are the positions, and um, so I wrote it down. I did the spread, wrote it down, and skunk was one of them.
Wow.
And sometimes, I still have that chart from somewhere, and I think to myself, skunk, really? You know, there's a few that just make no sense, you know, at the time, and then over the years they've revealed themselves to me or showed up, and
Especially unique ones like that. Really.
yeah, such a weird animal, and um, I realized that I'm sort of like a skunk kitty. It's like a combination. It's like a skunk
Cool.
kitty.
Yeah.
But up in the high desert Mount Shasta area, it was actually a town called Wairika, and there were skunks everywhere. I would see skunks like hiding under bushes, having a snooze. And
Wow.
we did and I love the school for this because they said everyone has to teach a 1-hour class. Could be on anything. It could be how to fix a carburetor, but
That's good for you.
whatever you're comfortable with teaching, you're going to teach it, and we're all going to be your students. So this is a lesson you have to learn, is how to engage a group, and how to hold your own power and lecture, teach
Awesome.
something. So one of our classmates did a journey circle, with a drum and everything. So she smudged us and did a little guided journey, and then the drum took us, and it was I forget what was the point of it, but anyway, my journey took me to laying in a hammock with this little boy when I was 4 years old. It was a deep memory that I had, and I was about 4 years old, laying in a hammock with this boy named PJ, and I loved him.
Aww.
I was laying in the hammock, and I loved him, and I was like snuggling him, and like I remember feeling like with my whole body like I was all on board.
Yes.
In this like little hammock snuggle with this 4-year-old.
Pure joy of love. Yes.
Yeah. In my body, in my senses, with this little kid. And I came out of the journey, and everyone said, what did you see and learn? And I said, I had this experience, and it was like before I felt any shame or was shut down in any way with my sexual energy. And one of the teachers looked at me, and she said, and I had never shared I have skunk as a totem with these people, and she looked at me and she said, "Oh, Naviae," she said, "that's skunk medicine."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had just seen a skunk that morning we had like a two session day. We'd go in the morning and then have lunch and then gather in the afternoon again. And we all lived in town, so we could, ride our bikes home and make an amazing salad and come back.
Fun.
Yeah. So in the morning we had seen the skunk on a hike, and I was like, oh yeah, skunk's my totem. And then have lunch and then have this journey, and my teacher's like, this is skunk medicine.
Wow.
And put it all together. So I realized why skunk had been there for me.
What aspect specifically would you say is a skunk quality?
Yeah, I would say the playful nature of the skunk, and the innocence of sexuality, the pure joy of being in your body and not judging or shaming. You feel what you feel, and that sort of like innocence
Yes.
and joyful and playfulness. And yeah, that's what I
My
would say.
intuition, is this true? My intuition says also, despite the way that people might look at you because of your appearance, right? You're just going to get in that spirit anyway because of the skunk thing. Is that true or no?
I think so. I'm not sure what you mean though.
Well, what I mean is being in that place and maybe looking like a fool or whatever, and being okay with that, just going with that anyway. And I would think a skunk, sometimes they're judged, like people are afraid to get too close to a skunk because, they have you know what I mean?
Yeah, so. I hear you. And I think the word that is associated on those cards with the skunk is reputation.
Interesting. Yeah.
So
what I feel.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Everyone stays away from the skunk, and it's not especially scary or anything. Everyone's just like, skunk, and that's the best defense it has, is just its reputation. It's like, you don't want to tangle with that because you're going to end up stinking. So
right. Like when I saw that skunk, I was like, I mean, I feel like animal interactions of all kinds are hugely shamanic for me and whatever. So I wasn't sure what to do at first. And my cat was looking out the window at it, and I just decided to let it be and just watch it. And he just left after a while.
Aww, they're so beautiful.
Yeah, he really was beautiful. He really was. He was just going about his thing, doing his thing. But, so skunk kitty, huh? Kitty skunk.
Skunk kitty. Yeah. I
Like,
would love to have like a physical, tangible relationship with a skunk one day. I don't want to like descent it and mess with it and whatever. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
if there was a way that I could befriend a skunk easily without any of that, I would.
I've always said I would be Ace Ventura if I could be any fictional character.
The Pet Detective?
Yeah, I would have
Seen that.
animals everywhere.
I know. Do you have pets or animals now?
Currently, I have one kitten, and he's new. He's only about 6 months old. I've had lots of cats and other animals though in the past.
My flower doesn't want to stay.
Oh, hibiscus! What shall you do with it?
I don't know. I don't want
Make
it. I still want it. I'm going to stick it up here again. We have 4 cats here.
Oh, yes.
We just like adopted a whole litter a few years ago.
Oh, I love cats. I have big cat energy. In fact, I'm an honorary cat.
I could see that.
So who are your cats? What are their names?
I have there's 3 boys and 1 girl, and the one girl they all have Hawaiian names. Her name is Pua Kini Kini, and Pua means flower, and Kini means penny. So she's the 2-penny flower, and it's a very sweet smelling. It's like an orange color, and they make leis out of it. So
Yeah.
Pua Kini Kini. We call her Kini for short a lot of times. She has a million names, and she's a little tiger. Yeah, she's sweetie. I call her Sachet Shantae a lot because if you're trying to walk, she's like meow, 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 and you can't get anywhere. It's like one step, Sachet, next step, Shantae.
That's awesome.
She's really sweet. And then her brother Noah, who was actually had I think licked a can or something and had a horrible ulceration on his tongue a few weeks ago and about did me in. But he's all better now. So his name is Eno Noa Molokai. That's his full name, and it was named after the first hula I learned, and we just call him Noah for short. He's the biggest. He's a big tiger tomcat and very loving and gentle. And there's a black one that's my little black magic kitty. His name is Kukui Nut, and Kukui Nut is a black nut that grows on a sacred tree, and it's really shiny and black. And the Hawaiians it's also called candle nut, and the Hawaiians would use that oil for lamp oil. It's also like they put it in hair products now. You'll see like
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah.
I've seen beauty products at the stores. Yes. Mm-hmm.
But it has a magical connotation because it's like the light within the darkness, and yeah. So, but whenever I'm doing something with a client, there's one client he's always there for. It's like he knows she's about to call and he'll show up. If I'm doing a ritual or anything for witch school, he'll show up for that. And he's the talker. He's always like, ow, ow, you know. And then there's a black and white one named Mahalo Nui Loa, which means thank you very much. And we call him Nui for short, which means like a lot, or he's black and white, and I used to call him Skunk Kitty, but he didn't like that. So now we call him the Pony Kitty because he has kind of like that black and white, like how ponies look sometimes.
Yeah.
We also call him Sketch because if you go to pet him, he'll like arch his back and like run. If you open the door and he wants to go out, he'll just like run real quick. He's sketched out a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah.
I love that they all have Hawaiian names.
Yeah.
The synchronicities with you go so far. I mean, I just haven't even told you some of them so far, but even with the cats. So my cat's name is Shaka, like Shaka. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. We had a Shaka kitty. I was living in France for a short time a few years ago, and it was on this beautiful vineyard. We were there for about a month, I guess. And my partner's friend, it was his ancestral lands. It was like an old mill and a river, and it was so gorgeous.
Oh.
And it was yeah, it's great. Canteron, I can't even say it. It meant like the singing frog or something. Canteron. I don't speak French. So
that sounds magical.
yeah, I hear him yelling, Navi, I have something for you, you know. And he comes in the house and he's got this little tiny cat, little tiny tiger kitty. And he says, you know, I can't believe the dogs didn't get her. Where did she come from? There's like miles around, nothing. And he didn't have a cat that was giving birth to a kitten. So he said, take care of her while you're here. So we named her Shaka Kitty. And we found a home for her.
Wow.
I thought about taking her in my backpack though, because I love that little kitty so much.
Oh yeah.
Why did you name your kitty Shaka?
Why? I have had this loose tie with Hawaii for my whole life. In fact, I was probably conceived there, seriously, almost certainly, and never been there, and I don't know much, but I have just an odd sort of synchronicity with some of the culture and stuff, and the Shaka has been part of my. It's just like a natural gesture for me. It has been since I was young.
Yeah, I love the Shaka.
Yeah.
Let's see if I have something.
He's like that. He's got that spirit, you know. He's just like he's everything that Shaka is. Of course, he has 1,000 other names too. It depends on the moment.
Yeah, because kitty parents do that.
Yes.
I know. When we had to get a house sitter we had a big trip that was coming up, and I wrote this like dossier with all like photos of our cats and the nicknames and arch nemesis and you know who doesn't like who and when, and it was funny.
That should be like a well, actually it should be like a blog or something now, I guess, or something. I was gonna say it should be a coffee table book.
Yeah, I still have it probably somewhere, but getting the Shaka down was like a rite of passage when I started living here.
Yeah.
And I crossed I guess it was like a street, you know, street work. They were doing something with his street work, you know, and this guy either had a cigarette or a joint in his mouth, and he was like smoking it, and I went by and I Shaka'd him, and he went.
Nice.
It was seamless. It was like.
No, and he must have passed the joint to the other finger or something. That's awesome. Wow, I love the legerdemain.
Yeah. Do you know why people Shaka?
I've heard it has something to do with a guy who was working and lost his fingers, and he used to wave at a girl he liked or something, right? His name was Shaka.
I heard. I don't know what is. This is the story I heard, was that there was a sugarcane plant guard that the kids wanted to, you know, break in and steal the sugarcane, and whenever he wasn't there, they would like. And he had lost these 3 fingers, so whenever he wasn't at the checkpoint or whatever, the kids would be like, and like, come on in, like no 2-finger guy, you know.
Yeah, that's how the cookies clear.
It's all good, but it's turned into like now they call it like hang loose or but
I was talking about Volkswagens. I was huge in Volkswagens as a teenager, and that was always the thing that Volkswagen drivers would do to each other as they were driving.
They would Shaka?
Yeah, here
Ah,
in Colorado, there are a lot of surfers in this landlocked area, surfer types. But so yeah, that was just we all had Cal style bugs and like low riding and just cool hot rodded out and stuff. We just kind of do that to each other when we saw each other.
I just love the good vibes of Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I mean, California and Oregon too. I've spent some time on the West Coast for sure. Um, but I don't know, it's almost like people are in a better mood here most of the time.
I I'm naturally that. I feel like I just have that island vibe. So
Hmm.
is that way? How about now, even in this climate?
Yeah, I mean,
Nice.
people are generally friendly. I mean, even the I hate to say it, but like postal workers and DMV people, and like when you call the town hall for something, you get this like, sweet little auntie. She's like, okay, so you understand now. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, okay, will you call back if you have any, it's a sing-songy, happy little, like everyone cares.
Nice.
And um, like I was in line, like DMV, I feel like it was DMV. A lot of people were in line and all of these young men in their 20s were kind of gathering in the line. This is a while ago. And I came up behind them and they went, oh, let auntie go, let auntie go. And I'm like, am I auntie? And oh, okay, thank you. And they're like, yeah, yeah, auntie go, auntie go. Like they just go to the head of the line, auntie, like
Wow.
respect, you're our elder. And I'm like, am I auntie now? But yeah, I was there. I was older than them, you know, and
And
they
there,
were
of course, that's what
showing,
happens.
yeah. So I love how this culture on this island and the islands in general like honor their kapuna, the elders, and I've even seen it with some of the like political debate on Facebook and things where um some of my mutual Facebook friends would kind of get into it about like disagreeing things, and then they would just defer. They would say, uncle, out of respect, I'm just going to leave that right there.
Ah, yes, I understand.
Like I'm just going to be respectful and not need the last word, not need to like hammer it home, but you're
Yes.
my elder. And this one person was also a veteran and they were like, uncle, I respect you, and that's it. I'm not even gonna like agree to disagree, moving on. But
Yeah. Very
yeah,
Japanese style and Asian influence. I understand with the martial arts background. Totally. Of
yeah,
course.
I really love that. And um, I love the idea of ohana, and that's something real here.
What is Ohana?
And ohana is like your community family, your spiritual family, your
Ah,
um, regardless of blood,
yeah,
your group.
yes.
Um, yeah. So,
I
and I
believe
don't really have a lot of blood family that I'm in touch with, so it's been
me
nice
neither.
here to. Yeah. Are you the black sheep,
Not
Xander?
no, not exactly black sheep. I'm the Scorpio, but not the black sheep necessarily. But no, it's just again an interesting thing. So parallel between us. And so, like, do you feel? Have you always felt that way, or was there a point in your adult life when you separated from your family?
Um, it was definitely a point when I realized it was what was going on, whether I knew it or not. I woke up to it.
Were
Yeah.
they just on a
I think.
different level than you, or something else? If you don't mind talking.
Yeah. No, I can. So I was the only child, and when I guess I was about 20, 23, I left New England and moved to California with a man that I was in love with and ended up marrying. And it was like at that point, um, like people didn't really leave my family. They didn't move out of the area. So that was a huge, like, I can't believe she left. Like, would you go? You know, and there was a lot of stink around that.
Wow.
And I would go back and visit as much as I could, and for holidays and special things or whatnot. But it was like things were never the same after that. And there was unspoken resentment there. And yeah, and over the course of the years, there was an expectation that I would move back there. And a few times my folks were kind of in I thought, kind of a situation where they could use some support. So I would make plans to move back. And when I would be finalizing my plans and call my mother and be like, okay, like I'm going to be coming. And she would say, oh no, don't come back because we did this instead and we don't need you to come. So there were several times, maybe 3 or 4 times where I had, stopped what I was doing and then reverted my plans to, okay, I'm going to go and just like figure it out and be with them. And then it was, oh no, we don't need you to come.
Wow.
But I don't think that the extended family heard that side of it. They just saw me not there.
Oh,
And
wow, that's
you know what I mean? So there
goodness.
was a lot of like, what I see about it now, both of my parents have passed away and my grandmother, but what I see now is it's like it behooved my mother to not have me there and to keep this sort of narrative of her daughters not taking care of her or not there, and therefore she needs us. And then she had not just me who would come and kind of be like um superimposing my will on things and be like, okay, you guys need to do this, and because I kind of get in and take over because stuff needed to get done, you know what I mean? And she really didn't want things to get done. She'd complain about it, but she really wanted things to be the way that she was coasting,
I see. Yeah. Yeah.
So having this narrative of me not being there and that I didn't care, or that I wasn't any good, or I was a bad person, or whatever, she told a lot of stink about me. All of these extended family and cousins and relatives wanted to like show up to be there for her. So she had a lot of sympathy and attention because she made it look like she was not getting it from me.
Yes. Sure.
Yeah. So I didn't really know that was going on. And it wasn't really until 2017 where a lot of stuff was going down, where I was finding out like a lot of betrayal and lies and things. It's a whole big long story. But I was really upset, and one of my cousins, her first cousin, called me because he was kind of like my eyes in the sky there. And I was getting relatives calling me and like yelling at me and leaving me these like foul messages that it was like crazy talk. I'm going like, I don't even know what they're talking about. Like, this is not, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Wow.
And a few of them were so vile, the things they were saying to me, that after I heard one message, I like vomited. Like, that's how like disgusting these messages were. So yeah, people I hadn't seen in like 5 years calling me, messaging me these things. So I called the good cousin, one of the good cousins. He was like a former attorney and like really grounded, and had taken the time to get to know me and not believe whatever my mom was saying. And because I wasn't there, so everyone was just like, oh yeah, she's this, she's that. But like, you don't really know because I'm just this character, you know what I mean? That scapegoat. So,
Yeah.
but he, because of his, grounded, legal, logical mind, he was like, no, I'm gonna actually get to know her, and never told me this was why, but we started a whole relationship, via phone, and he actually visited me a few times, and I would visit them when I stayed with them when I'd visit my folks for a while. So like, he got to know me of his own accord, which I really value. And very few relatives did that, only a handful. I have a really big family though. So I called him and I said, because he had said, so and so wants your number. Is it okay? And I was like, yeah, of course. And he's like, so and so wants to call you. And he gave out my number, and I called him. I said, I can't believe what they just said. And this other person, and he said, that's why I didn't even want to give him your info, because I kind of know that, there's some
Wow.
stink going on. And I said, well, why would they think that? Why are these people thinking this? And he said, oh, honey, it's because what your mom is saying to them. And it was like, what? These people think all these lies and this whole story because my mom is fabricating this. Like, why would she do that? And it was like my whole world just kind of like,
Yes. Yeah.
and yeah, it was really intense. And um, I had just had a really bad car wreck that I thought I was going to die in. This woman was, I think it was meth, but she was just out of her mind, and was pulled over. And then we're just on the highway, and she just decides, I'm just going to pull right out in front of you. And there
Oh.
was nowhere for us to go. So we went into the other lane. Luckily, no oncoming cars. And we thought, okay, we'll just cruise right behind her. No, now she's doing a U-turn. So she hit us anyway.
Oh.
And she was coming at my door so fast. And I thought to myself, okay, this is it. And she hit the front of the car instead of the door, luckily, but sailed us into the jungle, airbag. It was crazy. I was taken out by ambulance, and I wasn't able to work for a few months. And my partner and I had a
Wow.
trip planned to Thailand, and we were just like laid up for, all of spring, winter of 2017. But this is what's going on. So I'm like messed up. And my mother's calling me, asking me for money, and all these relatives are calling me, telling me, I'm a horrible person and all that. And I'm just like, I don't even know like
As
what
you were
reality
starting.
these people are in.
Wow.
So it was like a big wake up call to my family dynamics. And I have since done a lot of sleuthing, psychic sleuthing with other seer friends and such. And I mean, beyond a doubt, my mom was a malignant narcissist, covert malignant narcissist.
Sounds like,
Um,
from
yeah, big
my
time.
professional opinion.
Yeah. But I didn't even know what that was really at that time. It wasn't off my radar.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just my mom, you know.
I
Um,
can see. Yeah.
but
That's all. Really.
Yeah, I've done a tremendous amount of therapy and um, group work with other daughters of narcissistic mothers, and actually have also found out that she most likely, I can't say 100%, but I think she had multiple personalities, my mom. Or what is it called? It's not MPD now. They call it DID.
I haven't heard
And
that.
yeah, dissociative identity disorder. She had a lot of trauma as a baby. She was separated from my grandmother for the first year of her life. Um, and they say that that is kind of what causes, or could be like abuse or neglect in the early, you know, infant years could definitely cause that.
I remember
Um,
hearing your story about her, so that's terribly. Yeah, I can see.
mhm. I'm I'm fairly certain that there was um, personalities that looked at me like I was like the sun rose and set on me. And then she also had personalities that were vengeful and yeah. So
Yeah.
still kind of unpacking all that, but trying to find forgiveness around, her circumstances and her survival instincts and whatnot. And but yeah, it definitely deeply affected me because that your mother is the first person you're supposed to trust in your life. And I never really felt like I could trust her
Hmm.
ever, even as a little kid.
Ah.
Oh, yeah. I never felt like I could trust my mom. My grandmother was like a mother figure. I trusted my grandmother wholeheartedly. And things were out of order, right? So I felt like my grandmother was my mom. And yeah. So,
Was
but
she the
that's,
one? Your grandmother?
um, I found out that my father's mother was also a medium, mystic, clairvoyant lady, but she passed when I was 5. And I didn't really know her as well. My babcia from Poland, but my mother's mother was who I lived with. Yeah, she was super. She was a Scorpio in the tropical. Holy cow! She was like 4'8", but if she was mad, the whole house was like.
Yeah.
But she didn't get mad very often, luckily. But when you did, when you were on her list, good luck.
Was the same true when she was jovial? Yeah.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
was
Carrie.
small but mighty.
I feel that. Yeah.
Very, very loving. If you were coming over, you were going to eat.
Nice. Yeah.
You walk in, are you hungry? I just made this. Oh, I'm good, Graham. Here's a plate. Oh, okay. I guess I'm eating. Yeah, she was a great cook.
Thank you so much for sharing that about your mom. I feel so it just wow. I feel you on so many things, and that just I kind of want to take a circle back though to I'm thinking about so many things with that story and so many ways that we could go and so many things I'd like to ask you. But when you circle back to the time in the car wreck, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
I remember. Well, you said that it was like an NDE, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had a
So
few of those.
have you?
Yeah.
Like, so I'm curious about those. I've had a few too. And
Hmm.
why did that one stand out above the others so much? Was it the circumstances that were happening around you otherwise, or?
The car wreck one?
Yeah.
Um, I guess because most of the other ones were when I was very young, and this is the most recent that I can recall. Um, yeah, it was like I felt myself consciously preparing to die as the car was coming our way.
That slow motion moment where you're just like, nothing I can do.
Yeah,
All options are gone.
yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty intense to just feel that like it's coming at you, you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
And yeah, I had some PTSD from that for sure and had to go to like a PTSD specialist to kind of shake that out of my body. Yeah. And it was in that therapy with that man, with that I guess psychologist. But once we kind of worked through some of the car accident trauma, he's like, you actually have CPTSD, and it's deeper than just this car wreck. And all the stuff from my childhood came up. So, and that was the same year that a lot of the truth around my family and my mom came up also. So I felt like the car accident was to shake loose a lot of the things that were hidden, and
Hmm.
for me to deal with, like 2017 was like the year of reckoning. It was big,
Things came to
very
the surface.
unpleasant.
You had to deal with them, huh?
Yeah. And 2020 has been challenging on a like collective, you know, obviously, right? We're all going through something with this weird quarantine and virus and stuff. But on a personal, private level, 2017, I found myself this year being like, I still have 2017, like whatever, 2020.
I hear you. Yeah, there's those times that have prepared people like you and I for this time. I think, sometimes I've wondered why we've had to suffer through certain things, and you um, um, probably have wondered the same thing. And right now, I can see if I hadn't gone through those things, and many other people, we'd be lost right now too.
Oh
Or
yeah,
so.
yeah, and I mean I'm not saying like I'm just skating by. I definitely have my own,
Sure.
um, you know, all sorts of anxieties and challenges going on this year.
Oh, sure. Me.
But I don't know. I just feel like a part of me has I don't know, been kind of tempered a bit from my personal experiences, especially around 2017. Yeah.
Is that when you felt yourself like separating from your possessions and things?
No.
Okay.
2017 was the year of the car wreck and the
Yeah,
year that a lot of the truth around my family came up.
I see. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And just dealing with old trauma from my childhood that I didn't want to ever um, dive into, I guess. It's just sort of been like disconnected, and it was time to unpack it. But I hit it from every level. I hit it from like a deep myofascial massage level. I hit it from a psychological with the therapy, and I also hit it from a shamanic, working with like ancestral healing and things. So I did everything I could to like hit it on all fronts and just let it dive deep, come out clean kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Juicy
Did
stuff.
did you feel like one method worked more strongly than the other, or?
Mm, I feel like they were all necessary and effective, and the multi-pronged approach to was key to, hit all aspects of where I was wounded. The
Yeah.
body holds a lot, and to unpack it psychologically and just have someone listen was awesome. And um, because it's interesting too. Where was I? I'm trying to think. I think so. I've been doing these IG lives with a friend who is a visible sky astrologer named Janine, and we're doing one on 12/12. So follow me on Instagram if you're out there and interested in galactic
Oh,
astrology
wow.
and visible or actual sky astrology. But we're going to double team that on 12/12, I think, for Hawaii time. But she's been an amazing gift in my life, and we've been kind of like unpacking some stuff together. And
Nice.
recently she was like, wow, there's so much story around this. And I'm a storyteller. I love the story aspect of things, love to hear stories, want to tell stories. And that's kind of how things unfold for me, is like in a fairy tale story kind of thing. But that loop can be hindering when, like, is it time to give up the story? Is it time to let go of the story? Um, so one of the reasons why I think like I need so much like proof or evidence around stuff for myself, and that makes a story, is because from a really young age, not being believed or discounted my truth around stuff.
Yes.
It's like I needed all of this like bag of examples to be like, and then, you know, to prove to my family, and then to prove to me that what I'm saying is valid or real, or like I'm used to have to like producing a lot of examples to
Yeah.
be
Defending your
validated.
point of view even when it's not asked for, right? Is that what you mean?
Um, just because I felt like what I would experience wasn't believed, I had to validate it with
Yeah.
examples. Talking about the spirits I would see as a young child and different examples of things. And
Right.
um, yeah, so I'm still sort of seeing that pattern within myself of like, why do I need to have 20 examples of why this person's not a good friend to me? They're just not a good friend to me, and I know it. Move on. Like, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think that children of narcissists are kind of in that mindset of like having to deliver so much evidence all the time,
Yep.
because and we've kind of seen this in our political climate also. It's like you can kind of scan when someone's not telling you the truth. It just feels like you're being gaslit. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, they're talking and it's like, what you're saying doesn't match the energy. And that's
Yeah.
how I grew up, was feeling like you're talking, but what? I'm always kind of like slightly off and confused, you know?
Uh-huh.
And um, when people are lying, you know? But yet
Yeah.
there's this part of you that wants to believe them, because why would they lie?
Right.
And what does that mean if they're a liar? You know what I mean?
Like what's their
So
motive and stuff and all sorts of things. Yeah.
yeah. So I just feel like that's what I've been unpacking this year, is just trust what you feel. Like, this person isn't telling you the truth. It doesn't matter what they're saying, because now they're lying. So what does it matter? And you trust it and know it. But I was kind of like re-traumatized, because I feel like a lot of, and I'm not gonna like get into politics, but I feel like a lot of people in the political arena have been making stuff up, or just like, this is true, no, this is true. And it's so confusing. It does like your mind in, and it's triggered all of my old trauma from growing up with a malignant narcissist as a mother.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I could see that for sure. It's it's difficult to step back from, probably at sometimes for well, is it actually difficult for you to step back from all that and see it? Like,
Yeah, my partner actually was the one that um that pointed it out to me. He was like, why are you trying to make sense of this, what this person's saying? Like, you know, they're lying all the time, just let them be a liar. I'm like, oh, I can just do that. You know.
mhm.
But I definitely feel like I've spent my life projecting my goodness and my um myself onto people around me. And one of the best lessons I've ever learned is, when people show you who they are, believe them.
I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, allow them to be who they are, and allow them to reveal who they are. And when they do, accept it. And then no judgment. You get to be, if you're a liar, be a liar, but I don't want to be around you. And that's
Right.
okay to have that boundary.
Yes. That's a powerful way to walk.
Hmm. It's not convenient. I'll tell you that much right now. It's not convenient. It's so much easier just to, you know, la la la, but it's not. It doesn't feel good.
Exactly.
Once you see, you can't unsee.
Yep. Absolutely. You know, it's I feel that I don't know if gaslighting has just become and narcissistic behavior and things. Those are real things, and we those of us who have gone through it didn't know what it was called when we were going through it, right? But so um, I just wonder if that's, I don't know. Do you think it's more recently developed, or do you think it's kind of always been in our culture and just not talked about?
Well, there's a movie in the, I think it's in the 30s, right, called Gaslight, and that's where it comes from.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen it.
It's an
I've heard of it.
old black and, I think it's I could be wrong on the date, but um it's about a man who tries to convince his wife that she's going insane, and that's where that
He's
term
slowly turning down the
gas
light, right?
gaslighting comes from, because he was lying about all kinds of stuff, just like, no, that wouldn't happen, that happened, like that, you know. um and I've experienced that in different situations many times. So
Yeah, that's messed up. Yeah.
it's an old school technique that, I mean, so I will give you this example. um I lived with someone when I was like right out of high school, and we bought a house together. And all kinds of shenanigans were going on. And I would find things and I would say, oh, why did that happen? Or why did that? And he would say, that never happened. And I would say, oh, yeah,
Mm,
And then he would
mhm.
say, are you okay?
Oh no. Yeah.
And I'd be like, maybe I'm going crazy because why would this person who loves me lie to me? I had to keep a journal, discussed, la la la, went here, paid this, asked for this, like in-depth records. I was like 19,
Wow.
and this person was gaslighting me so bad, and that was my first conscious experience of being gaslit. But it was driving me insane, or he was trying to drive me insane. And
Yeah. It's like they're so assertive with that, and it's like, who's going to listen to reality here? That's not what happened. I know it. You're saying what you just saw. It didn't happen, or whatever. It's like,
yeah, it's just crazy making.
and their conviction behind it is astounding.
Oh
Wow.
yeah, super manipulative. But
That's
yeah,
that's all been coming up for you this year.
no, I mean that's something that I knew had happened to me. I just called it that he was a liar. I didn't realize it was like a whole other. I'm gonna have to hang on a second.
Sure.
Bear with me.
Oh, yeah.
Hope you can hear me without. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
sounds great. Yes, for me.
Okay, good.
Hopefully, do you guys out there hear her pretty well?
I had to plug in.
Michelle,
So I
Donna?
was starting to. My little losing power thing was going on.
Oh, gotcha. And hey, I'm loving this conversation, and I'll keep going as long as you like. But if you need to take a break, or if you need to wind things down at any point before we just do, um, feel free. It's all fine. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you being here.
Yeah, we should be good for a minute because I got to my backstage crew help me plug in.
Nice. I gotta get me one of those. I just have my cat, and he's no help at all. He's tearing things apart on the set.
Only thing is, I have this weird phone that I can't. There's no splitter. Like I have to. It's either plugged in or my earbuds are plugged in. So it's a little bit difficult hearing you now, but I can still.
Yeah, that's the goofiest thing on my setup too, is the sound. It's not perfect. I haven't even heard myself. I hope it sounds okay. But are you hearing me, Naviae?
Say what?
Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear you okay.
I feel like there's a couple of times when maybe it was a little soft. So if I need to be closer, let me know. But
No, I think you're good. It's just an adjustment for me to not hear through the earbuds, which I prefer. But
yeah, yeah. Gotcha.
yeah,
So you mentioned in the coffee chats the other day, you mentioned Coral Castle. Did you get to go there?
I did.
Well, that place is fascinating. Tell me about that.
Oh my gosh. So I'd gone on a trip to the Florida Keys and decided we were going to see it on our way back up. I was living in Tampa Bay area at the time. And oh my gosh, they had a little cardboard cutout of the man. Lev?
Oh, Edward or something.
Ed Scanlon.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I want to think Lev. Where did that come from? Lev. But
He's also supposedly a little guy with a lot of power too, like a little 4'8", 5-foot guy.
had a life-size cardboard cutout of him, and you could stand next to it, and he was smaller than me, shorter and smaller than me, and it was amazing the castle that he had carved out of the coral that was all around the land, and he would work only at night and no help in the dark. And what he said was that he had figured out the secrets of the Egyptian pyramids. And that's how we did it. And
That's all you said?
yeah, and it was
You know,
cool because
that's a cliffhanger.
that's what he said. That was like a direct quote from him. And there was this they had some kind of like pivot doorway, like a revolving door on a pivot.
Yes.
And I forget, someone broke it after he passed away.
Oh.
And the Army Corps of Engineers tried to like lift it and fix it, and it still isn't working. So they couldn't figure it out. But this little tiny 5 foot tall man, 95 pound, yeah.
There are so many mysteries and weird things around that whole story, including why he even built it and stuff. And I remember one story about his methodology. He apparently, I guess, a truck driver who drove a bunch of the coral things over for him, transported him over there, and Ed said, "Go ahead and go to lunch, and just come back when you're, done." And when he came back, all the coral was unloaded from the truck, and it was just Ed. And he was like, "How the hell did that happen?"
Yeah.
People speculated like sonic technology.
I've heard that too. And after the tour, I went into the gift shop and I was looking at, one of the books or something. And I asked one of the clerks, I said, this is some mystical stuff. And she looked at me and she said, Ed was a mystic. And she started to she's like, oh, you want to know? And just like her face beamed and she was like, Ed was a mystic. And he was a secret. And she just started like all the people, the people that worked in the gift shop knew what was really going on. And were more than happy to kind of like engage in like a woo conversation about it. Nice. They didn't like lead with it, but if you even dropped a breadcrumb like this guy was, they'd be like, oh yeah.
You have any juicy bits you remember?
They said that it was sonic levitation. And there were like secret journals that he had that weren't published, but rumored. I think it was I want to say like wave sign, like formulas and things.
Wow.
But I didn't see any of them.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't really know more than, it was just, short conversation, but there were behind the scene documents or alleged journals and things that either some of them had seen but it wasn't available.
Oh, not in the gift shop, huh? Like an old postcard.
No. But they said that that he had figured out secrets of, it was like probably sound, levitation. I mean, you even hear that with Hawaiians.
Yeah.
There's it's called the Menehune fish pond in Kauai that supposedly was built overnight.
Oh.
And they attribute it to the Menehune, which are like the elves or the little people. And
just reading about them, okay?
The Menehune, yeah, or the previous population on these islands. There's different sort of stories about who the Menehune are.
Yeah. One
of my friends called them the Manahunas, which I like much better. The mana or energy, and then huna being like the shamans, the energy shamans, the Manahuna instead of Menehune.
Yes. I like that too.
Yeah. There's even like a bottled water company that they had called the Menehune water with like a little.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, see, that's something you don't hear much about is the folklore of that area.
It's really alive here. And I've gotten rerouted by the Menehune before. and I can't explain it. What happened?
What do you mean rerouted?
So I was, and I'll admit I have a horrible like sense of direction because there's something called, have you heard of dyscalculia?
No.
So one of my clients was talking about how her dyscalculia was getting in the way of her job, and she was explaining her dyscalculia and how it
Like numbers?
it was hard for her to get to places on time, and it affected her timing. And the more examples she gave,
I didn't
have it.
I didn't know there's a name for it, but that's a serious problem for me.
You probably have it too. So
like time thing, yeah.
The more that she explained it, the more I was like, I think I have this, because it's like, right? It's like dyslexia with letters and words, but it's dyscalculia is with numbers, time, and space.
Oh my God, there's been so many times when I've showed up for a meeting ready to go, like on Zoom even recently, and been like, where is the person? And then the meeting was like the next day or yesterday or some but it was like, I totally knew, I was confident that what I saw was then. Same thing? Is that what you mean? That sort of a thing?
That's happening a lot lately for me, but that is a similar kind of thing.
It always happened to me my whole life, yeah.
Yeah, like I can't read a map. I look at a map and it's like, how is this two-dimensional thing or one? What is it? I don't get it. Like, I cannot read a map. It I just look at it and it's like mirror. Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't compute in my head.
Struggled.
Time is rough, but also like when I would be in massage school, you'd have the person on the massage table, and the teacher would come around the side and be like, okay, like strip the distal, and I'd be like, wait, and I'd have to go to where they were and see how, and they're like, oh, you're spatially challenged.
Me too. Yeah, totally.
I can't. And same thing like within dance, the teacher can't be mirroring me. I have to be behind them doing what they do. I can't reverse it in my head.
Same with my martial arts. Yep. Yeah. Funny.
Yeah. So check it out. It's called dyscalculia. And why was I even saying that?
Some lady had it that you were talking to about. Talk about the spirits of the land.
Yeah. So I'm not really great with directions in general, but in Hawaii, I'm on this island especially, I always know what direction I'm heading in, because the mountain's that way, the ocean's that way, and I just kind of know where I am. I don't know. There's an extra set of directions. There's Mauka up the mountain and Makai down to the ocean. So there's north, south, east, west, Mauka, and Makai. And that, for some reason, I can orient myself with that.
I've heard that. Yeah, that makes sense to me too, funny enough.
Yeah. So I was heading home in the dark one day, maybe 4 years ago, on this island, and there was a traffic accident. So the town I had to go through was all blocked off, and I had to go like back roads home. So basically, if you just kept taking lefts, you would get onto like the beach road and end up in my neighborhood. And so I did, but I ended up at the warm pond, which is clear in the other direction about 25 minutes.
Oh.
And going the wrong way. Like, even if I had taken rights, I shouldn't have been passing it on my left.
Huh.
I was like, where am I? How did I get here? I just was completely going the wrong direction when I should have been. I can't explain it. It doesn't make any sense at all.
I've been there, not often, but that's happened to me. Yeah.
And
it is like, what the fuck? You feel so untethered.
Yeah. But I talked to some hula friends, and they said, oh, it was the Menehune. They do that. They like can like time slip like out of time and space and like ground you somewhere else. That they've heard of things like that with the Menehune, that they play with you on a time space level.
Really?
Yeah. So
I mean, so go ahead, please.
it's possible that so I have a podcast also, and I think it was episode 10 with this man named Charlie Logan. He's he's an initiate in a mystery school that talks about different parallel realities and some of the, you know, if you want to call them fae or beings that were here that have gone beyond the veil now and that were physically legit on Earth in a 3D like tangible way. And there came a point in our history where they decided to leave and go beyond the veil, and we stayed. I think the Menehune are part of that they decided to reside mostly beyond the veil and can interact with us in certain ways, maybe in different portally spots or at different times of the year, but that was my feeling after that happened, was like, I think I just interacted with the Menehune / fae of the island.
Wow, I could jive with that. Most of my paranormal phenomena has been centered around those things, fae experiences, and also time slips and time-centered things, and yeah, that tetheredness between physical reality and not. That's wild. So what is it called? What are those guys called?
Menehune.
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 Maybe when I was conceived, there were Menehune around or something. No, so did you experience anything else, or was it just that oddity?
With the Menehune?
Well, at that time, yeah, like with the lake, were you just like, how, that was weird, and just went home, or did you avoid any calamity or anything?
I don't know. There was a car crash in the roundabout that I needed to get in to go on the main road to my house, and I had to go the back way. So
You went there, yeah.
I don't know why I was redirected. Honestly, I'm not sure, but there's a lot of big energy on this island, for sure, and in Hawaii in general. It's always kind of like you're tripping.
I bet.
But all the time.
Are you a kind of person, it sounds like it, I know I certainly am, that can drop into a trance easily, like at a moment's notice, walking life even?
Oh yeah.
So you're kind of like, you can walk into that tripping kind of feel real easily, especially when the energy is that way, probably, yeah?
Yeah. I think that's why I can, I feel really at home here. And some people get here and they feel really overwhelmed and they're like, because, you know, it's a bit unstable because of the volcanoes. And I mean, there's earthquakes, there's volcanoes, there's tsunami warnings, there's hurricanes. It's not.
And there's nowhere to go.
I mean, it's every natural disaster you could think of is kind of like right here. But yet I feel really good here. I feel really, I don't know. I can't imagine living anywhere else right now. Maybe France.
Oh, really? Interesting. Naviae, I'm really feeling that pull towards that sort of a thing. That's really fabulous. I bet it's, and you're on the Big Island. Jonathan's asking, you're on the Big Island?
Yeah, and I'm not looking at the chat, everybody, because it's on my phone. So if anyone's commenting, I don't see it. So I'll try to go back and read later. But aloha, everyone.
I can highlight. There we go. I'll do that.
Oh, there you go. I'm on the Big Island, Jonathan.
Tether is one of my favorite words too. We should start a
yeah.
Maybe we'll call that Sunday show the Sunday Afternoon Tetherball Club.
Or dodgeball.
Dodgeball, totally.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. I love that. That's good advice.
I've seen that movie so many times, and I quote it to myself all the time.
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood.
Nobody.
You know,
I get it. So,
I
What's that?
met him, Ben
Oh,
Stiller,
really?
when I lived in Kauai. Yeah.
Wow. In what context?
I was working at that health food store in Hanalei, and he had a house. I met a lot of famous people that lived in Hanalei in Kauai.
Cool.
Hawaii
I
has like a no paparazzi rule or law,
ah.
so they can't follow them here. So it's super low key for the celebs.
Oh
But
yeah. Okay.
he's he's I had some friends who were extras in some of the movies he was doing here. I forget which ones, maybe Zoolander. I'm not even sure. But he there's a clause all of the extras have to sign, like, we will not bother Ben or look at him, or he doesn't want to interact with anyone. And
No eye contact.
yeah, like, you're out if you did. And
Wow.
he paid for his own whatever groceries he got, but he had sunglasses on, and he was like, very shy and didn't want to, because I don't really get starstruck, really. I mean, I'm excited maybe if there's someone that I enjoy their work, but they're just people,
Yep.
And so I didn't make it a big deal, but I could feel him like, please don't make it I can't imagine being that kind of celebrity, famous person that is, accosted all the time. And so
Oof. Yeah.
I just, tried to make it not a big deal, but I could tell he was like anxious about it and didn't want to make eye contact, didn't want to have small talk, didn't want to chatty chat, nothing,
It'd probably be so hard just to be cool and casual in normal life, just like.
Yeah. And he was there, and so right after him, this other man came and gave me his credit card, and it said Michael Diamond. And I was like, I feel like I didn't know who he was. And I thought to myself, I feel like he's in the music industry. That was just my psychic hit.
Clarence.
And he left, and people were like, that was my D from the Beastie Boys, I was like, oh, okay. But I didn't recognize him at all.
Wow. Cool. I would have.
He's like passed away now, I think.
No, MCA passed away.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And was it? I think Mike D though was married to Molly Ringwald, or maybe it was actually. I can't remember his name now. No, I'm losing it. The King Had Rock. It was the King Had Rock.
I don't know. I'm not like a huge fan and not that familiar.
I'm almost ashamed to mention that I am, but actually some of their lyrics and music's pretty cool if you actually listen to it. But
yeah, I mean, it's cool. But yeah, so they were there. There was a lot of celebs, like all the hobbits were there at one time, and
I mean that was fun.
Kurt, what's his name? 007, Pierce Brosnan lives out there, and Lisa Bonet also lives out there.
Ah.
Met all them. Just casual, whatever. She's stunning in person. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Super beautiful.
Not just all made up. She's like stunning in person.
Yeah. She was just like in yoga pants with her, I think, dreads or braids, and she was buying yerba mate.
Awesome. Yeah, yerba Keats.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
a lot of famous people that come and go through Hawaii.
Yeah. Are they is it true that they're kind of resistant to I know they're sort of resistant to outsiders in general, like natives are, and I wonder how they react to people coming into for retreats and stuff, like the celebrities. Do they kind of resent that?
I don't know. I'm not, like, on the Big Island, I'm not really in the public like I was living on Kauai working at a store. Now I just work from home doing my readings, and I'm not really like in the mix like I was 15 years ago or whatever. So I'm really, I mean, especially this year, just kind of out of the public. But in general, I mean, Hawaiians have aloha. So
Yeah.
There's a kindness and a friendliness and a just like a good natured energy in general here.
Yeah.
So even if they're not thrilled about it, there's not going to be too much stink because they really believe in aloha.
Cool. The aloha style. Yes. How has your witch school been impacted by things?
Oh, it was kind of sad because early on I had a group of, witch friends, witch students, I guess, that we were gathering here at my house in my temple here. And right after we had maybe, I think we started 111 was the new moon in January. I'm trying to go back now. But so we had maybe 2 months and then coronavirus came and they were like, we don't really want to, and I was doing like a remote witch school for people all over the place and they didn't want to transition into remote. So I lost like my little community that I was doing my in-person rituals with. So that was the biggest impact, I'd say. But the people who were already doing like remote rituals and remote classes, that hasn't changed at all.
Cool. That's awesome that you can facilitate that. Do you feel that the transmission is just as good?
Yeah. And I find that because most of and now for sure, all of my clients and readings and things are all virtual, phone or video call, and even transcript. I have some clients in Europe that it's hard for us to sync times. There's like 11, 12-hour difference.
Yeah.
In Germany and Norway and England and such. So it's like, do I want to do this at 7 a.m, 7 p.m, or something like that? They're not always able to sync. So they'll just say, do a video. Here's my questions. And you do a video for me, or do a transcript. And I'll just like read their questions and do my trance and type it all out as I go. And then they get to reread it again and again. Sometimes there's follow up because it's not like a live, I want to ask more questions about what you just got around this.
Yeah.
But the psychic connection, it matters not. Physical, or even if you're talking to me live, I can do it transcript. It doesn't matter.
Nice. I believe that.
If any, there's maybe a clearer link because I'm not informed by your appearance or how you're reacting to what I'm saying. It's real pure. It's just the incoming message from the great big giant head, as I like to call it.
That's how I want to get it. I respect that. That's exactly the way to do it. I wonder, is your curriculum in your witch school, did you create it based on a way to introduce people into a certain level of magic and witchcraft, or does it reflect your actual practice at this time?
Good question. So when I was living and working in Tampa Bay, I worked out of a witch shop, an old world style witch shop called Enchanted Earth. Super awesome.
Enchanted Earth. Cool.
Enchanted Earth. And I was blessed to be there doing like priestessing full moons and Sabbats and teaching witchcraft classes and other classes, Reiki classes, and doing clairvoyant readings there and past life readings for like, I don't know, six years or something like that. And it was a 13-week, every week kind of class. And at the end of the 13-week magic class, Witchcraft 101 magic classes, there was like a self-dedication thing that I would offer to folks. And we would do those throughout the year a few times so people could come live and get on this like 13-week cruise, Yeah.
It's like a track. Yeah.
Yeah, it was super fun. And all the classes built on each other, starting from like, what is witchcraft and is Wicca witchcraft and that sort of thing. And then gave them a good foundation of terms of what I'm calling magic and that sort of thing. So I based my witch school loosely kind of on that and just expanded it and stretched it out, incorporating because at that Tampa Bay area witch shop, I also was doing these full moon and Sabbath rituals. So the students would get to do my full moon and my Sabbath rituals with me, but it wasn't part of the curriculum, but it sort of was. You know what I mean? Because they were all wanting, you know, and some of them I'd be like, well, do you feel like you want to, you know, call an element or help me, you know, smudge the circle or meditate or whatever different roles that they could play to kind of get their chops with priestessing or priesting, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to incorporate that. And
so awesome.
And, you know, I'll be honest, one of my biggest complaints with this modern wave of witchcraft is, and I'm not trying to piss anybody off, but I feel like the intention of why people want to become a witch or get in touch with their inner witch is kind of like, I want to mess with someone, or I want to power over someone, or I want to like get revenge or show you I'm power, you know, and it's not about that at all. And I've seen so much of that snap back on people and land them in a psych ward, land them in the hospital, like literally from cursing people or shattering their vessel or whatever they're doing. And I'm trying to give a foundation for folks so that they can avoid all that and have a mentor kind of walk them through developing yourself to be able to handle the kind of energy that you can eventually wield. So
Hi, Kitty. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
So it's like trying to sort of foolproof the path in a way, the best I can as a mentor for folks. And also kind of be that puppy, be that big dog with the puppy when the puppy's being a little, you know, rascal, and the mom grabs it by the neck and is like, you don't do that, you know, not in a mean way, but also be able to be like not scolding, but observing and giving my 2 cents, you know, about stuff. It's like a lot of my students will come to me and be like, oh, I did this spell or ritual. And then I'm like, tell me about it, you know? And then I get to kind of deconstruct it with them and talk about karma and talk about, you know, just because you can doesn't mean you ought to.
Yeah.
And the repercussions of things. Like I was in that witch community, there were people who would be like bragging about how they did a spell on someone and they crashed their car and like laugh. And I'd be like, you know, this is why they burned us, because of stuff like this, you know? And these are real people. These are real lives that you're interfering with.
Yeah.
And getting your ego all like puffed up about. And yeah, it really upsets me.
Yes.
You know, so my goal was to have like a good moral foundation for folks and to like strengthen the vessel before they went out and started like, you know, commanding the wind or whatever they want to do.
Dude, I'm right there with you, Naviae. It's like, to me, it's just amazing every time. It sounds so much like a martial arts journey, and like mine specifically, and like that same sort of a model, and that how people can kind of go into it with the wrong intentions and want to fight people and stuff. And as an instructor, I wanted to give them a different foundation, you know. So much like what you're doing, and try to give them a school that reflected that sort of a curriculum. Now, so what I want to know, since I have that perspective, did you ever have witches come to you that had that vengeful spell, mentality that changed? Or do you just naturally attract then people who are wanting to, find the good magic? Does that make sense?
It's been a mix. It's been a mix, but I think that's sort of like a bit of Hollywood.
Hollywood.
And I mean, we have ego. We're egoic creatures. So to understand that might be the initial impetus why people want to learn about magic. It wasn't mine, but I think that can be people's impetus.
Yeah, sure. Comes from maybe self-protection, right? They want to protect themselves from.
Or I hate to say it, but a lot of times it's like revenge. It's like, I'll show you. And, so it's like, what do you really, I come from a psychological place of like, well, what are you really trying to access here? You're trying to access your own personal power. Underneath it all, you think it's like you want to convince them how powerful you are, but you need to convince yourself. And then you don't care what they think.
Yeah.
Because that's what the mirror is showing you, of like, you've somehow humiliated me or rejected me or, triggered fear in me or made me feel diminished. So you want to like show them, and that will bite you in the end. And I've seen it bite people. And it also creates karma. Like a lot of people I've had icky dealings with, I don't want to face again. I want to be done with it. So do you really want to create this like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth? You curse me, I curse you. Like really? No. Just sever the cord, be done with it. However that looks, but realize it's not even about them.
That is so wise. Those are such words of wisdom. All that. Wow.
But I feel like one of the like shinier things around the witch school is that I wanted to have it be well-rounded, and the whole course is called the whole shebang, but I've had to, I know, the whole shebang, and that's all the lunar rites and rituals. So it's new moon and full moon. Every month there's a ritual or some sort of magical rite that's going on, and then there's a half moon magic class in between that. So sometimes the new moon is like a meditation or a rite of cleansing or something like that. Sometimes it's based on astrology, and I use the actual sky astrology. Like you take your star app and look out and you see that the moon is in the constellation of wherever, and that's where I go by, not by the tropical astrology charts. I kept feeling like my ancestors were like, look up at the sky, like what's really going on. And you hear people say like this last full moon, it was in Gemini. And then I go to my star app and it's actually like literally between the horns of the bull. And I'm like, what? How is it in Gemini? And then you realize that the tropical astrology is based on charts from like 2000 years ago. And it's kind of created like its own egregore of truth and meaning, and you can follow that, and that's its own magic. But I'm feeling like I want to look at what's actually going on in the sky above us, so I'm looking into that. And there's like something called new sidereal astrology.
Sidereal, yes.
It's new sidereal. It's called Mastering the Zodiac, and he has charts that you can download for free, and they're based more on the actual sky than the tropical. But I mean, I thought I was a Cancer. I'm actually a Gemini. So
I'm such a noob, and my knowledge about astrology is so poor, but I do know enough to understand that. And why do you think that is? Why is there that disparity?
Well, from what I gather, back when the charts were made, there was just a few people that knew how to, cast those charts. There weren't a lot of people that were, and it was like based on seasonal, what was going on seasonally, planting and harvesting, and kept people on track that way.
Sure.
And it just sort of became like set. That's what we follow. And like we had Samhain, right? Halloween was just recently, right? We had it. I always think of it as Scorpio. Samhain is in November. It's Scorpio, right in the middle of Scorpio, or early on in Scorpio.
Yeah.
But it was in Virgo. The sun was in Virgo for
Wow.
Samhain. And
Wow.
it's almost like we need to look at what's going on in the actual sky to evolve. And you can pay attention to tropical astrology or galactic astrology, like the Mayan stuff I like. And then also like the Vedic, is another, just different systems that
Yes.
all have a piece of, that shine a light on the different facets of the diamond, the story of
Nice.
you and what's going on. But for me, the loudest right now is for sure the actual sky. And that was episode 12 I just had on my podcast. That was what was going on there.
I got to catch up on your podcast.
Yeah, it's my friend Janine, she was the one that came on and kind of broke it down and shared a lot. But yeah, it's hard because like we're really identified, right? I'm so identified by my tropical astrology. I've been paying attention to that since I was a little kid. And now I'm like, my moon is in Sagittarius. What are you talking about? Nope.
So is that because of the egregore, that's created around that in our culture for so long, or?
That's one explanation, is that it's because of the egregore that it's created. I mean, tropical astrology is kind of like the religion of the witches at this point. I mean, I have a wee moon that's all based on, the moon is in la la la, and then half this, half that, and you go through it and you're like, with your Sky app, and you're like, no, it's this, none of this is right. How? And it's like, how are we not seeing this? And I think it's just time to look up at the actual sky and see what's really going on. And if you want to still follow tropical astrology, do it, but also have in mind that it's not lining up with, it didn't account for the precession. And we are moving through space. Everything's moving through space, and things have shifted. And, we're not anywhere near the age of Aquarius. We're like 800 years or something from it.
Wow.
Yeah.
But so many people feel that it's coming up here on the 21st or whatever, right?
No.
Wow.
It's when whatever, and I forget where you have to be.
I can't give you guys a wrench. I'm sorry. The chat is giving me a hard time because only Genocide has a wrench. I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to give you guys a wrench, and I know what I have to do. I need to go to YouTube. You'll get one in a second, guys.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Nice. Dip, dive, duck, dodge, and dive. Dodge.
Dip, dodge, dive, dodge, and dip.
Love that. I could quote that movie with you for all night long. That's awesome.
I love them. I'm gonna go watch it now.
That was coming on at a time when HBO was also showing Anchorman back to back with it. So I learned both of those by heart.
I don't think I have ever seen Anchorman.
Oh wow.
Isn't that funny?
Sure.
I don't know. I don't think so. But yeah, so I definitely don't want to discount tropical astrology, but I do feel like we need to see it for what it is. And, I think, like, I've talked to people and said, like, why do you think you're a Leo? And they would say, because the sun was in the constellation of Leo when I was born. And I was like, it's not. It wasn't. And they're like, what do you mean? And I say, well, what was actually going on in the sky when you were born looks like this, or is way closer to this. And it's all geocentric based on, you know, us from our point of view on Earth looking out.
Yes, that makes sense.
But I mean, how identified are you as a Scorpio sun?
So identified. I mean, I've got 5 planets there, and
Right.
it definitely seem to embody a lot of it. You know what I mean? It's crazy. I'm still tripping on what you're saying right now.
I know. I mean, I thought I had my moon was in Sagittarius, but my moon is actually in Scorpio. And I thought my sun was in Cancer, but it's actually in Gemini. And this new sidereal astrology charts actually have like the size, account for the size of the constellations. Like Virgo is really big, and Cancer is really small. So it doesn't spend that long. And like the houses are adjusted based on the size of the constellation.
It totally makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'm actually looking for an app developer, because I am not that tech person, but I want to find an app developer who can assist me in creating like an actual sky astrology app that accounts for all of the different planets' orbits through all the different there's like 21 constellations now that planets dip in and out of.
Wow. Really?
Not just the 12. Yeah.
Oh, that's what you said. You had said something about being tied to the major arcana that I wanted to ask you about. That'll probably come to me. 21.
Oh, the parallel realities?
Yeah, that's it. It's the realities tied to each of the arcana. That's a fascinating concept, but I don't want to divert you yet.
No, that's episode 12. My guest brought that up. He said that the mystery school he's a part of said that the tarot was developed to explain the tree of life, the Sephiroth, the paths between the Sephiroth.
Okay.
And that there isn't a limited amount of parallel realities. Like I always kind of think like if I go left or right, that creates an alternate reality.
Right.
But he's saying there's actually 22 parallel realities going on, and that tarot and the tree of life, like they kind of define it. So there's a Hierophant lifetime that we're experiencing. There's a High Priestess lifetime that we're experiencing. There's a Tower lifetime that we're experiencing.
Uh-huh. You mean all at the same time, though? All 21 at the same time?
Parallel. So, and there could be like lifetime or parallel lifetimes that have collapsed. So there might only be like 16 or something active ones going on for you. And
wow.
I kind of was like thinking that a lot of the work that I do with folks, a lot of my mediumship and clairvoyant work with folks is to like collapse the timelines, to bring them all into one like super juicy lifetime right now. Like, why do we have to be scattered? Because in the Akashic record work that I do, I see people's parallel lifetimes sometimes. Not often, but they show up. And I realize it's not a past thing, it's a modern time thing, but it's not here. And then with my divination, I find out that it's a parallel lifetime. And I'm being shown what this person's doing in this other parallel life. And they can affect this current lifetime that we're grounded in now. And sort of like reclaiming or being an ally. And I should just explain it. So I had this one reading with this woman who contacted me through email. I just knew her first name and that she was in the UK. That's all I knew. And her question was, how do I access my creativity? That's it.
Wow.
She sent me money through PayPal, and I sent her a transcript. And that was the only contact I had with her. And in the Akashic record reading I did, I'm shown this person, like nondescript female, climbing these tall ladders, like in a loft situation, and huge canvases, like 15 feet tall, big canvases. And the story unfolds, and I see that she's getting really famous, and it's because her paintings have a lot of energy in them, and she's like bleeding in her pigments, and I'm shown this like energy in her paintings. And then she starts doing like custom work for folks, and she's saying, give me a vial of your blood, and then she's mixing it in her paints and painting it for these people. And that was all fine and good until things kind of got sinister. Like things kind of took a sinister turn, and I didn't see a lot of the details, but the message for me to tell her was, if you want to reclaim your creativity, you need to like make a vow that you'll never work with blood at all. And that's, and I thought to myself, I'm gonna tell this person, she didn't think I'm nuts, you know?
Right.
I mean, and I also knew it was parallel because
it's pretty hippy dippy.
And there was 2 suns in this high loft, a sun on the left and a sun on the right, in different stages of setting.
Wow.
I know. And I'm like, okay, we're not on Earth anymore. Like, what is this, like Tatooine? Like, where am I? And
we might be. I think I've seen a dual sun, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, who knows? But wherever I was not the modern day Earth, or I don't know. So I was told not to edit, just let it rip. So I did. And I told her, and she wrote me back and she said, I'm a painter.
Fuck.
I was like, oh. And she said, and I haven't been able to paint because I'm just really blocked. And she said, I think she was like 35, and she said, I've never been able to have a baby. And she said, I've been saving my menstrual blood for 9 months in a jar.
I was thinking that you were going to say something like that. Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
And she said, and this month I was going to, on the new moon, with this blood, paint a baby and do a manifestation ritual to get pregnant and create this baby out of her blood paint. And I was like, oh my gosh. And she said, but I just threw it all away. I just buried it or whatever. And she said, I felt that loud and clear. And then a few months later, she messaged me and she said, like, things have shifted. I'm painting and this like new found creativity and in a great space, whatever. But I know that her past life, her parallel life, was a warning of like, don't go there, you know?
Yeah.
And when she took that vow to not go there and mean it, her creativity was unlocked. It was almost like she was being limited to protect herself.
Wow. Can you then see which card that was ruled by in each reality? Or...
I didn't even, this was a few years ago and I didn't put it into perspective, but
I mean, now looking back on it, can you then see that, like, which arcana might be influencing more or anything like that? Just curious.
It's not revealed to me. I would like to start asking with clients when I do sessions what arcana, what major arcana lifetime is here right now, or we, you know what I mean?
Yeah. See what they say.
Yeah, it's a cool theory. It's not my theory. It was something that one of my guests brought up, but it's super juicy to think about.
It is super juicy, and that's really jiving on me too. And I really grok what how you were describing the way that you get your vision and how you see those things. In my own way, I do, but it's very different. And it's just amazing how clear you are about your gifts and about how it just seems to be, I don't know, you really have gotten out of your own way. It's beautiful to see. um, it's inspiring, but it's also a little frustrating because it's like, um, you know, when you want to work with others and kind of try to help them in their space, and you know, you're kind of integrating these new ideas. Like this guy gave you this idea, right? But you have this intuitive gift, and you're working with that intuitive gift. So incorporating that new idea into your practice, it's got to be fun. But I mean, does it kind of make it wonky to be intuitive?
No, because I can sense if there's energy there, I follow it, and if there's not, I'm okay with saying I don't know.
Nice, sweet.
Yeah, I see that a lot with like folks just starting their gifts, you know, tuning in for others maybe is a way to put that. Like I have a lot of clients who are like, I want to develop my psychic abilities, you know, and I do like private mentorship with folks, and some of the witch school is geared towards that, is to how to get in touch with your own information or your own guides or your own body wisdom and that sort of thing.
Awesome, super cool.
So one of the things I see a lot with folks is like we'll do now it's all through like Skype and such, but or Zoom or even like IG chat and different things, but folks will do like one-on-one you know, readings for each other as part of their like curriculum of getting their chops. Like I want to learn how to read, so like we're going to read for each other. I do like tarot workshops with folks, and
Sure.
that's kind of like the last part of the you know, it's a few different classes, but one of the last classes is like we're just going to break off and do little 3-card readings for each other, and I'm overseeing that and like a fly on the wall. And a lot of folks are like, huh, and they're like, well, what does that mean? And they're like, and you could see that they don't know and they're digging for it, and I'm like, it's okay to say you don't know.
Yes.
And they're like, yeah, I don't know. And then it's like, okay,
It's better than
you
making
know,
something up.
you're not like the great and powerful Oz. You're, you know, if, and I think that that's a huge thing to get over as a seer or as an oracle spirit or as a you know, witch or mystic or whatever you want to call it, is I'm also really empathic and I know what people want me to tell them.
Yeah.
And you have to stand in your power enough to say, I know that you don't want to hear this,
It's
or I know
difficult.
that this isn't going to be welcome news, but this is what I'm getting.
Yep.
To say it in a loving, compassionate way, but also, you know, this is the harsh truth. And my guides are so loud that if I start to go, oh, I want to tell them that, you know, I hear like, tell them, and it gets louder and louder and louder until it's like shaking me inside. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna tell them. Because it's not for me to edit.
Right. And when you start bullshitting yourself, like at the very beginning, right, when those people are start trying to find that answer, when they're really trying to find it, and they start bullshitting themselves by accident, it gets in the way of actually going where you're talking about, right? Don't you think?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you have to be humble enough to say, I don't know.
You don't know.
You know, and people will ask questions, and you know, you do your best, use your gifts, use the tools. And if you just sometimes for me, when I ask too many times, like I'll try a few different currents and routes to tap into, to I want to, you know, satisfy the people that are paying me or who are learning from me or who are my clients, right? It's like my work, right? So I want to like go there for you. Yes. And come back with something that's going to be beneficial, right?
Yeah.
And on so many levels, that's what I'm doing. And so if I can't do that, I feel like you have to get out of your way enough. Like, well, you're not a failure. It's just, it's not going to be revealed to you. And the way that sometimes it shows up for me is the high priestess card. It just goes, bump, there's the high priestess, and I'm like, door shut, that's it. And if I'm in the Akashic records, sometimes I actually see a big door slam in my face.
Wow.
And it's just boom, big wooden, and I'll hear it, feel the impact, see it, and I'm like, session's over. Like, that's it. They're done. They're done with me.
Right. And there is no more. Yeah. There's no more. There's just nothing you do at that point. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And sometimes I can be like, okay, well, let's try a different route and ask it a different way. And sometimes I get somewhere with that, and sometimes it's just like, we already told you. You know?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, so this is a question I've got to ask because I'm just so when you see oh, like everything, there's so many layers. How can I make it simple? When you have had well, there's three things I'm thinking about. When you're thinking about memories from conscious reality, when you're thinking about dreams in the past, or when you're thinking about OBEs, do you see the scene from a third person or first person point of view? Or is it different for each one, or what?
If I'm out of my body looking at my body?
All that. Like if you're thinking about if when you're an OBE, or if you're thinking about like a memory in the past, any given memory, any time in your life, are you seeing it with your eyes, or are you seeing it like from as if it was a scene in a movie or something? With you there?
It depends. Like the out of body stuff, I see like as a witness looking at myself.
Yeah.
And usually in memories, I'm seeing from out my own eyes. Is that what you mean?
It is what I mean. What about, interesting, that's fascinating. What about when you're thinking about dreams that you've had? Do you remember, I guess, do you dream in first or third person?
First person.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So the LBE experience is completely separate from those other kinds of mental images that you create for yourself. You know, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like I'm out of my body viewing myself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. This is leading me down so many different ways. So in your OBEs, how can I say this? In your dreams, are you lucid?
Sometimes I'm like semi-lucid. I've had lucid dreams, but a lot of times I'm somewhere in between lucid and semi-lucid.
Ah.
And I'm aware of when I shift into lucidity. There's like I can recall before I'm lucid.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Like something shifts and I'm like, oh, now this is all real, you know?
Ah.
Like in that like pre-lucid state, you're like having, thoughts, right? You're thinking about, and you're having a like a process. But I have a lot of sensory input in my dreams.
Me too.
And reading things usually kick me into lucidity.
Reading things?
Mm-hmm. I'll see something and I'll read it and I'll realize like I just read something and I'm dreaming and am I dreaming? And everything's real and like,
Do you just kind of click out of lucidity at that point usually?
No.
Huh.
Sometimes
Cool.
it kicks me out, but I think more often than not, I just kind of ride it out as long as I can. something that's been happening in the pre-morning hours all through, I would say, since last Christmas Yule time. It's like winter solstice of last year, almost a year now. I started to hear knocks in my head in the morning. And
while you were asleep?
because I have 4 cats, right? So sometimes someone wants to come in or is hungry or moves or does something. So I'm like, you know, and I wake up for a minute, I have to do something and come back to bed. In that early, like I can easily go back to sleep place. Sort of riding that like alpha theta wave.
Oh yeah.
I start to hear knocks in my head, like knock, knock, knock. And I've been able to like dialogue with the knocks.
Like you'll knock back and you kind of communicate that way?
No, like I'll hear in my head, knock, 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 and I'll know that someone's trying to communicate, and I'll say, you know, knock 1 for yes, knock 2 for no, and I'll say, are you an ancestor? Knock.
Ah.
Are you from my mother's side? Knock.
Wow.
You know, are you a benevolent ancestor from my father's side? Knock, knock. And I'll try and like dialogue with them as long as I can, but I usually end up falling asleep again. But I've gotten some interesting messages, and it's like a good practice, right? To kind of ride that alpha theta wave before you know, are unable to communicate anymore. Now you're just sleeping.
Yeah.
But that's fairly recent.
Wow. Do you think that could you consciously go there if you wanted to, or is that something that just happens?
I've been able to do it during like I'm not a napper. I've never been a napper, even as a kid. But the nap time often reveals a lot of that sort of hypnagogic, you know, being able to communicate in that way. Naps are good for that.
I've been in that state and I've experienced that, but I haven't tried communication with anyone or anything, person or spirit or anything at that stage. That's fascinating.
You've heard the knockings?
No, but I've been in that stage and writing that out, right? That transition, that liminal spot between waking and sleeping. And it's a cool place to hang out and be there, but usually I'm more in my body than anything else. I haven't even thought about communicating. That's wild.
Yeah. Try. I mean, maybe before you go to sleep at night, just you have to kind of define it as I'm calling on my benevolent, well-heeled ancestors, because you don't want to just invite anybody.
Right.
Sadly.
I've heard horror stories about what can wake you up at night.
Yeah. So getting your bright, benevolent ancestors and giving them an invitation that you want to communicate. Yeah. Maybe let's start knocking. And you can also establish like what the knocks mean. Like the 3 knocks seem to be how they introduce themselves. Like, I'm here, knock, knock, knock. And then you can set up like knock 1 for yes, 2 for no, and see where it takes you. It's been fun. My father's mother has come to me that way, my babcha, and also a relative of my mom's who actually I didn't even know he had passed away, and I had a vision of him. I hadn't seen him in like maybe 5 or 6 years, and I had a vision of him in the middle of the day. I was walking somewhere and just saw him in my face, like in my mind's eye. He showed up and he had shock white hair and was smiling. It was about like a 3 or 4 seconds I saw him, and I thought, oh my gosh, did he die? And I called my mom and she was crying, and I said, oh, did so-and-so pass away? And she said, how did you know?
Wow.
I just saw him in my head. And I said, but he looked different. He had like shock white hair. And she said, oh yeah, his hair went white. So it's happened several times with people I've known, relatives, and like even friends' dads, my like girlfriends when I was growing up, two of my friend's fathers I heard passed away, and I had already, like, I was driving cross country with my friend Echo. I mentioned her earlier, and we were like somewhere through, I don't know, Kansas, some flat place, and she was asleep, and I was just powering through the night driving, trying to get somewhere. I forget where. And I took off my shoes because it was raining, and I went and got gas, and I left my shoes off because they were kind of wet, and I was driving with bare feet. And I was thinking about this man who was my best friend's dad when I was in grammar school, like first, second, third grade. And he was like a little hippie. He always used to have bell bottoms on and had like a, you know, green Corvair, and classic cars were his thing. And I was just thinking about him all, you know, how he always drove barefoot, and just thinking about him the whole way through Kansas. And happened to call my mom that morning and just checked in, and she said, "You know who died?" And I said, "Mr. Platt." And she said, "How did you know?"
Wow.
I said, "I thought about him all night long." And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Because I was driving barefoot and I just thought of him." And he had passed away.
Now, see, I haven't had the experiencing someone's death thing before, but I can identify with what you're saying there. But the seeing, isn't that different? A different experience than the knocking experience you're having with these other deceased people?
Yeah, I mean, having the relative show up in my mind's eye, that's happened a few times, but it's like waking state. And just thinking of someone when they had passed, I was just, you know, kind of trancing out driving alone with my thoughts. And then, but I'm always kind of like in that in between, right? I was taking a walk and saw my relative. I was driving for long hours in the dark, and but there was associations with him. It wasn't just like out of the blue. It was because I was barefoot, because I was alone. I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's all different, but communication nonetheless.
And then I start to wonder. Then I'm like, okay, so is this scene set up for me, or is this all part of the creation of the event, or is it, you know, retro causality, or you know?
I don't know. I can't really define a lot of things. I had a teacher who would say, "We're here to live the mystery, not solve it." If I started getting too much in my head about stuff, and she would say, "Ugh, we're here to live the mystery, not solve it." And
thank you.
That puts the magic back in, but like, I get it. We want to dissect and label and understand and define and, you know, scoop it out, and it's not always, I don't know if we're able to, or if that's even appropriate, or if it diminishes it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, especially with that kind of tricksterish kind of a thing. It's like, you know, and a synchronicity sort of a thing. It's like you just, sometimes you just have to look at all of the coincidences and go, I just laugh. And I think that maybe that's the ultimate thing, is it's humor or something. You just kind of go, it's absurd. It's funny. It's what it is. And there's no point. I love that. Live the mystery. Is that what?
We're here to live the mystery, not solve it. And you actually remind me of her partner, Dave, actually. And like, since we've been talking, and even the other day when we were doing the live stream with I was on with Keats and Michelle, but I know Spooky came on later. But
I was watching it when I wasn't able to be on.
Yeah, I was thinking that then. I was like, oh, he reminds me of Dave, who was her like best friend for many, many years. And then towards the end of her life, she wasn't very old. She was maybe 60 when she passed, but they just had that beautiful friendship that merged into like a life partnership, you know.
Wow.
But he is a beautiful human and photographer. Lived up in Washington. He might still live up there now. I know he spends some time on the Big Island still, but have to get back in touch with him, because you remind me of him so much. And
I hope it's good things. Hope there's good things around him right now.
He's wonderful. And he reminds me of like a gnome, like a Scandinavian gnome. that's who I see him. So I see fairy, the fae aspect of people sometimes, and that's who he reminds me of. And you kind of feel like that too. Like there's a Scandinavian gnome essence there. Do you have Scandinavian blood?
You know, I do. I have a mixed blood, a lot mixed. Mostly it's English actually, but a lot of German and Celtic too. And when I was a child, I believed I was a leprechaun, like when I was a small child. I mean, I literally believed, like I would actually try magic and stuff and like do stuff with dirt and shit, you know, and I would pretend that I would try to leap extra, you know, distances and shit like that. Like I was a leprechaun. But then I have identified much more with like a Scandinavian sort of a feel as I've matured, for sure.
I see that. That's really cool.
Thank you. I love your insight.
Yeah.
That's cool to get impressions about people like that. You're just like, you see something in them. I love that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I have a lot of food allergies and weird things like that. And like 20 years ago, I was just sort of figuring it all out. And one of my good friends at the time and old roommate, she was like, I can't do that either. And I said, yeah, it makes me sick, you know? And she was, our fairy DNA doesn't like it. And I said, what? And she said, our fairy DNA can't handle it. And then she totally revealed her little ears shifted for a second and sparkled. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. And she never spoke of it again, but she acknowledged it and like revealed herself and then went back to.
I feel you entirely what you're saying. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sometimes people's fey nature, you know, it's like they don't even realize it's there and it kind of like shows up and then goes back into hiding, you know. But I mean, could it be possible that we're mixed with other beings from other realms or not just human? I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
I've wondered that too, because I don't feel like I'm immortal or, you know, anything like that. So I don't know, but I definitely feel that tie to the infinite at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't mean I mean, and I'm not immortal on this planet. I don't feel like a god or something.
Right.
But I do feel in touch with that mystical thing.
Yeah. Have you ever done any kind of psychedelic before?
Yes.
Have you ever done ayahuasca?
No. I was dating a woman though, who was very much into that. She was helping with ceremonies and stuff, and she said that I could do it if I wanted to, but I really didn't need to.
Yeah.
But I'm fascinated by it, and I think I'd like to try it.
I don't ever want to do it again.
Really? How come?
I did it once in 2002 and I did it again 2015. It was like a 3-day retreat.
Wow.
And this is something that I don't see people talking about, but the overlighting spirit of the Aya doesn't leave. It shows up all the time. It stays with you. And for me, it feels like non-consensual.
Wow.
Like, I don't really want this other thing around.
Very cautious about that sort of thing. Okay.
Yeah. So I wouldn't recommend it for that reason. And it was never explained to me. It was never like, you should know that if you do this, this entity will be around. And
so are you working with that right now yourself? Trying to.
I mean, I feel like it's, if you did any other psychedelic, it would show up. It just like sort of takes over the whole experience.
Okay, that's very fascinating because I've definitely I haven't done psychedelics in 25 years, something like that. It was in my early 20s. So anyway, I definitely had a super religious, I guess, experience on acid once, and then I had this other experience with mushrooms that was I learned about Kundalini energy based on what and someone told me about it, and it went out of my mind forever. But I feel like since that time, anyway, I had this Kundalini experience a couple of years ago with a woman who was the ayahuasca person, and long story short, I had a spontaneous awakening, and it rocked my world and set off a chain of events where everything in my life changed. I lost everything, was out on a quest for a while, and so I wonder now if that latent energy didn't stick with me somehow and come back through.
From being around that woman?
Yeah, exactly. So I wonder if that maybe the Kundalini contact I made or whatever with the mushrooms back in the day was brought out again or something by this ayahuasca woman, because this relationship with this ayahuasca woman was also hugely centrifugal in my life for a lot of reasons.
Could be. I know that I've experienced, I've been around others with, taking mushrooms as a group. And that's when I realized that the Aya was gonna, literally showed up, started talking to me. And I was like,
wow,
why are you here? Like, you weren't invited, and they were like, you think you're going to do this and I'm not going to be here?
Wow.
And it took over the whole journey for not just me, for everyone that was here.
Wow.
I was with in that experience. And
did you see it embody someone, or was it as separate entirely?
It didn't embody anyone. It just intensified the experience to feel like I was on ayahuasca again. It didn't feel like mushrooms anymore. And the people that were with me had never done ayahuasca. So they were along for the ride because it sort of took over. The presence was there for the group.
I've experienced that before. I know what you mean. That's interesting. In fact, that acid experience was kind of like that. It's interesting.
I mean, I've been around people taking acid that I haven't been taking acid, and now I feel like I'm tripping because I'm near.
Yep.
So why would it be any different if I feel like I'm experiencing the ayahuasca spirit and everyone around me is experiencing it? But they couldn't communicate it because they had never experienced it. They just thought, wow, this is a dark trip,
Yeah, no context for, oh yeah. Exactly.
Again, this is kind of like a tropical astrology. I know I'm going to get stink for it, maybe, but I think ayahuasca, especially in the New Age kind of community, is looked at almost like it's this infallible goddess or god, or they call it grandmother or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I haven't had a totally benevolent experience with it. And people say that was just the shadow that you needed to work out or whatever. I'm like, I don't know. I'm a sovereign being, and I like to be able to say, this is the tea I'm drinking, and this is what I know is in the tea, and I'm signing up for the tea experience.
Yep.
And now it's not just, Earl Grey. Now I've got it's sangria. And I didn't sign up for sangria.
Correct. No hidden agendas or hidden contracts, anything like that. So
yeah. So
give me the tea or the yeah.
Yeah. It feels sneaky. It feels comes out of nowhere, and non-consensual. It's a little bit rapey.
That's how I felt about the acid thing. Yeah. Do you think that's consistent with ayahuasca? Have you heard that from others?
I took my first time 2003 or 2 or 3, and I had a few different people in Kauai, for example, that were like, I could tell that you've taken it because I can feel the ayahuasca spirit around you. And they said that they've never taken it, but they're so sensitive they can feel it on other people. And that was the first time I heard that this beings don't go away, or the being doesn't go away. But my first time was super joyful. I was also alone, and the second experience I had, I was in like a retreat with a bunch of people in like a house. So I didn't enjoy that at all. I felt everyone's stuff.
Exactly. I would think so.
Ugh, awful.
Oh God.
Yeah, but the first time I was like, literally, I was with a group, but we were all spread out throughout like 20 acres, and there was people tending to us, and I couldn't see or hear really anyone, and that was perfect for me.
Yes.
No bleed over.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and the group I was with, and this was like over 5 years ago. It wasn't recently. But some of them I didn't know, and some of them were having like really intense experiences and speaking in tongues, and
I've heard that too.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Probably some like going through ultimate like depressions and crying and stuff too, and horrors and all sorts of things.
All sorts of horrors. I thought about leaving after the first night was over. I thought about leaving the second morning, and I was having so much fun with a lot of the people, like when we weren't in ceremony. And I thought, oh, maybe I just had a bad experience the first night. It'll get better.
Right.
And I keep thinking, like, buy the ticket, take the ride, just but I was traumatized after. Yeah, it was a lot, because you're like really it's intense. It's like, if you've never experienced it, it's something like you can't ever explain. And yeah, you want to feel really safe and in a good place when you take any kind of psychedelic or shamanic journey like that. That setting and medicine. You want to feel like, would I trust my life to these people? Check. Do I trust this that I'm taking? Check.
Right.
Do I feel like safe and secure and good in this area, in this land, in this surroundings? Check. And if you can't answer check yes to all of that, then don't do it. And even
also,
then,
I would add also having an estimation of when you expect to come down, and have that written down somewhere. Because with DMT, I guess I haven't taken DMT, but that's only going to last like 20 minutes. So you can be like, okay, cool, I can ride this out. Or you can be in the middle of an acid trip and go, oh shit, okay.
Yeah, I've never taken DMT, but I know that that's the active ingredient in ayahuasca. I've heard that smoking DMT or ingesting DMT is like what you experience in ayahuasca over the course of 5 or 6 hours.
Oh,
but
God,
in
no,
a little dense moment.
No thanks. And besides, arguably, if we've experienced NDEs, we've had that DMT experience for ourselves anyway, in a manageable form.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you ask me a little while ago if I had tried psychedelics or ayahuasca?
I was just wondering if you had an ayahuasca experience, and I was curious what yours might have been like.
Yeah. That's now that you mention it, though, the woman that I was dating did tell me one time she was out overnight at a ceremony, and that she said that she had to take care of people all night long. That basically was something very similar. That she had to take care of all these different people in so many different states, and she took on all those states because she took an extra dose of ayahuasca that night, and that's kind of when things changed with her and me, and also a lot of things in my life got a little notably weird right then.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I have people I really love and care about that are huge, fans of it, and have had amazing breakthroughs and healings and, you know,
Yeah.
deep experiences, and I have too.
Yeah.
But I just, for me, feel like I don't like that it sticks around, and I wish that that had been explained to me before I was partaking.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't like that it's not just like a one and done, moving on. That's like, now I can experience this again, whether or not I sign up for it, you know. But
Right.
I think I might be done with psychedelics forever, to be honest.
I know I am. I might do I would definitely do mushrooms if the time was right. But so do you feel like you're on your own with that journey, or do you have like a mentor or something who can kind of help you shed yourself of that, or what do you think?
I don't really feel it around anymore. The true test would be to take a psychedelic and see if it shows up again.
Yeah, I guess.
But I don't feel it like in my daily waking consciousness or even in my transfer visions or anything. I don't feel it around. I've asked it to leave and told it I didn't sign up for this and it's non-consensual. It's like, moving forward, like, now it's noted and it's abusive if you decide to, you know, continue to, you know, hover around or whatever. But I don't, no one's come forward and said, you know, you still have ayahuasca around you or anything like that. But yeah, I've just sort of like let it go and had my peace with it and trust that it's moved on. But it's irritating that you have to even have that conversation with it.
Yeah.
Like, I think it should be invited, but maybe by ingesting it, I feel like I did invite it. I don't know. Or it feels obliged. I don't know. It's murky.
I'm really curious. I hope that I get to hear how you go through that, because I'm curious about that very thing. You know, it's like it is murky.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like a really huge plant spirit energy. And it's like, you know, like tobacco.
I'm definitely in touch with marijuana, by the way, for sure.
Yeah.
Like big time.
That's another huge plant spirit.
Yes.
Huge, powerful plant spirit.
Yes.
Um,
And tobacco
but
too. Yeah, I've done that ceremonially recently, and that's powerful plant medicine.
A lot of folks in the ayahuasca community that I've talked to, like, incorporate tobacco with the ayahuasca.
Wow.
To like ground themselves, and there's like even like a snort. I just tasted something that's so weird.
Huh.
That goes along with it. But yeah, so it's part of the journey for some folks. I don't know if you're supposed to live there. You know, I don't
Right.
know if that's something that you need to keep doing every season or year or month.
Right.
It can be, I mean, like, I've been studying shamanism a long time, and the teachers that I've had would say like psychedelics are a kickstart or a way to kind of show you the way or introduce you to things, realms, beings, guides, etc. But the goal is to not need any of that.
Yes. So I feel like I've always been in touch with that, and then since I was born, and so many different experiences, and I've heard you talk about your world too, and like you, about the age of 12 or 13, I think I sort of fell out of my magical. It was just wasn't in my consciousness anymore. Sure, I had that, and I was still studying martial arts and magical things, sort of, but anyways, it wasn't part of my world till about 19 or 20 or something. And then I tried psychedelics, and what that did for me is it gave me a different level of perspective on that connection that I had before, and also probably brought it back into my life. Do you feel like when you came back into yours, did you well, and I have two questions. When you came back into your magical awareness, was there a catalyst for that?
When I came into my magical awareness, realizing that I was clairvoyant.
Well, no, I was thinking, and maybe I certainly don't mean to recount your story, but from memory, I thought you were saying something like there was a period in your adolescence when you were not actively pursuing magic or something, but then around your 20s or something, it kind of came back to you. Is that not right?
Yes, and sort of. Yeah, I was super in touch with the spirit world as a child, and then around like adolescence, puberty, it sort of went underground for a while. I wasn't experiencing as much.
Yes.
Still super interested in all that, but it wasn't having experiences really.
Yeah.
You know, from like, I would say maybe 11, 12 to 17.
Yeah.
And then when I was 18, I got tarot cards and started working on meditation, and things were happening again. I was experiencing spirit activity and things like that. That's so funny. I just smelled tobacco again.
Wow.
Yeah. I had to make an offering to my ancestors when I start to smell tobacco. But yeah, so I would say the catalyst around 17, 18 was I started having experiences again, seeing the spirits in my house, and I was given a deck of tarot and started to learn the tarot and seek out more spiritual community. And when I was in high school, I actually went and did a tropical astrology like night course at the local community college. And all my friends were like, "You're going to school and going to school. Like, why would you do that?" And it was so interesting to me. But yeah.
Wow.
If that answers your question. So meditation, tarot, and then just being done with puberty, I guess, and started having experiences again. It was nice to just have that break.
Yeah.
But I started getting into witchcraft to kind of learn how to manage it all.
That makes sense. Was it so since the psychedelics didn't introduce you to that realm, what do you think it has done for you?
Psychedelics?
Yeah.
Let's see. I was 26 or something before I tried psychedelics. I think. I didn't try LSD till I was 29. But I tried mushrooms when I was 26. I loved it. It brought me to, I used to take them by myself in the woods. Like I got super comfortable taking mushrooms. Mm-hmm.
I would love that experience. You've had that? You've done that?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Many times I would go into the woods and take them alone and camp or something. And it felt like I would really connect in with my nature spirit self and with the tree spirits. And yeah,
I do that right now. Awesome.
Say again?
I do that right now. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was good. It brought me in touch with a deeper communication with nature. I would say the mushrooms did. And I had so many beautiful communications with the tree spirits and rocks.
Yes.
And the moss on the rocks, and even like communication with plants and things.
Yeah.
It was a lot easier to get that dialogue going with a little bit of psilocybin going on.
Right. Yes. It kind of allows us to access that, I've heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm super grateful for them. And I definitely am not anti-psychedelics, but I just want to be sure that the setting and the trust is there with the medicine, knowing where it comes from. And I took LSD for the first time, and it was like liquid that had been like buried in the mountain with crystals in Mount Shasta. It was like, oh my gosh, you know.
Wow.
And then the second time I took it, it was like a tab that came from who knows where, and it wasn't good. It was awful, you know. It was like,
Big difference.
yeah. And it really gave me a big lesson of like, it really matters. All the details really matter.
Yes.
And to be discerning about all those, you know, setting and medicine for sure.
Yes. I'm with
Especially
you on
being
that.
a sensitive person.
Yeah.
And that, you know, a little goes a long way, and like you don't need to have a tremendous amount. There's like microdosing has gotten really popular right now.
Yeah.
And for anyone out there that's thinking about going down the psychedelic road, and you know, it's legal or wherever you are can, I don't know. But consider taking just a tiny, like a flower essence version of it, and you might, you know, experience as much as you would if you know, ingested a whole bunch of physical.
Yeah. I'm actually considering seeking that out as part of my treatment. So we'll see. If I do, I'll let you know what happens.
Yeah, I've heard people are like working with PTSD and depression and different things, anxiety.
Mm-hmm. And here in Colorado, it's you can, if you get the right doctors, you can get it. So
Yeah, I think it can be like a really good medicine. Kind of seeing behind the screen in some ways into a different aspect of yourself. You know, there's a lot of keys there that I'm not sure that our modern lifestyle really supportive of that. So you might need a little booster to get you there.
well, I certainly don't need it, but I do appreciate what it does for me. I like it. I like the idea of, I don't know, to me, it's like taking a broom ride. I like the idea of being able to make that a ceremony and do that and have an influence outside of myself kind of carry me. If it's tied to a nature or spirit, especially, is beautiful, I think.
Yeah, be outside if you can. That
Yeah.
seems to be the big I don't know, like that's like being inside is not ideal or optimal
Nope.
for me at all. It gets weird. I want to be outside with the trees and on the earth, and yeah.
Yep. Me too.
I think you know, there's different events that you can go to. I don't know about now, but back in the day when I was doing a lot of festivals, there were some that were just so perfect to just kind of be in the safe environment to explore that.
Yeah.
And everyone's kind of assuming everyone's there, and everyone's being like super respectful, and you know, be super shanty for the trippers, man, you know. Like,
Totally.
you know, and everyone's like one time I was at a fire circle, and this girl had, I don't even know what she had taken, some sort of psychedelic, and me and this other lady who was she's kind of a famous drummer now, but we were just standing there, and this girl came up to us, and she was just like, you know, you could tell she was like experiencing things on a really energetic level, and someone came into the circle yelling. They were angry about something, and she was like, you know, looking around, and me and the other lady just like kind of came and like shielded her from it, and we were like started singing the song to like keep her engaged with us so she wouldn't. Yeah, it was I was like, wow, I'm gonna big sister this little lady right now. and kind of rode out whatever this person needed to vent, you know. But
Oh, bless you. I can feel that. She needed that. You saved her.
yeah. Yeah. But I mean, that's life, you know, like you do the best you can to create a good atmosphere for things. And there's always that, you know, who knows what. And you have to like rely on the kindness and support of people around you to, you know, kind of shelter you in the storm sometimes. So grateful for community when that's happened, you know, for me when I've needed it.
And how timely is that right now? Actually, I'm gonna kind of wrap things up because of the timing, but I love what you just said. That wraps things up perfectly because it is. It's like we need that. We need that community, that sense that brings right now. That's a perfect metaphor for what's going on right now.
Yeah, look out for each other.
Yeah, sing that. Look, because we who are singing those beautiful songs, you know, to each other, you know, they're only for those who need it, right? And all that other stuff people can yell and scream and all that stuff, but you know, we can keep enjoying our trip and helping each other through it. I love that.
You're helping me with mine. Thank you.
You are really helping me with mine. Naviae, I really appreciate talking to you, and I would love to talk to you again. I have so much more to ask you and talk to you. And honestly, I'm not just saying this. I really wish I could study with you, and especially it would be fun to take your witch school. But your healing and all that stuff, maybe I could participate someday because I really am feeling it from you. So
Yeah.
thanks.
You're welcome. I was gonna say, so I have that whole shebang, which is the lunar and solar Sabbats and new and moon and magic classes and mentorship. But then I also have just the Sabbats for folks who kind of just want to do the Wheel of the Year with me. And then I also just have the lunar magics, so it's not involving the Sabbats and the solar, like Yule and all that.
So it's not overwhelming.
Yeah, it's like, you know, bite-sized doses for where people are at. And then I also have my top tier Patreon has a magic class every month that people get all the other Patreon bonuses of like the podcast and the raffles and private readings and astro tarot forecasts and things. But then they also have that monthly class. Yeah.
All that's for your Patreon members?
So I have 5 tiers on my Patreon. The first tier is just the podcast tier.
Okay.
So it's all the, you know, behind the scenes stuff of the podcast. And then the second tier is they get the Astro Tarot new moon forecast and a monthly raffle on the full moon called the Cauldron Raffle. And that's a chance to win a free reading and other things. And then throughout there's 5 different ones. So one has like a lot of Mayan astrology info in it. If people are wanting to learn kind of like in a passive way, just kind of get my video every wave spell of what's going on. And they also get like a 15-minute private reading. And then there's the next tier, people get like a longer monthly reading. People that are going to come for readings anyway, it's like they get, for the price of a reading, they get all the other benefits plus the reading. And
wow.
So it's like some discounts in there. And then the top level is all of that, plus a longer reading, plus the magic class every month.
You really are putting some value in there. You're just like letting it all hang out. You're just like, I love my people who love me, right?
Yeah. And I'm interested in so many things. I have a lot to offer in different veins. So the Patreon was a way to kind of be like, you know, here's some Mayan astrology stuff. Here's some private reading stuff. Here's my podcast. Here's a little bit of witch school, you know.
That's awesome. That's a great model for, I'm like that too. You just have, yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Keeps it interesting, and it's also held me accountable throughout this weird quarantine year of, you know, I'm obligated in a good way to keep being creative.
Yes.
So it's really helped me.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Aloha.
You are shining, Naviae. Keep it going, and I wish you all the best and all the success and everything. And Aloha. I know we'll talk to you again soon. I'll have all your links and everything below.
Okay.
There we go. Lost my camera. There we go. Aloha. Bye. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Best to you. And tomorrow evening, I'll be live with Ian Wilson, and that will be at 5:30 Pacific time, 6:30 Mountain time, and I guess that's 3:30 Hawaii time. That is in the afternoon hours. So Ian Wilson, Dreaming with Gamers, that's going to be fun. But tonight, what a conversation with Naviae. Astounding. I'm so honored, and thank you guys for being here. Just can't believe that I actually have someone to talk to. Someone here to hear the broadcast. Cheers, y'all. I love you.